Great. Good evening and welcome to the Township Committee meeting of March 28th, 2017. Ms. Borick, please call the roll.
Committeeman Burchett, Committeeman Delcor, Committeeman Thompson,
Here.
Deputy Mayor McCauley,
Here.
Mayor Sirachi,
Here.
Administrator Ferreira,
Here.
Attorney Willard.
Here.
Thank you. And please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be advised that in accordance with the Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, that notice of this meeting was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex and notifying the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex at 7:30 p.m. on March 28th, 2016. First, we have approval minutes. Approval of the March 16th, 2017 regular session minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Comments from the dais? From the floor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Committeeman Thompson,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley,
Yes.
Mayor Sirachi.
Yes. Moving on to reports from committee liaisons. First up, Committeeman Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things from me this evening. First, on behalf of Committeeman Burchett, this is just a reminder that the next HBA Business Social is set for Wednesday, April 19th, 2017, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the restaurant at Roycebrook. The special guest speaker will be Jeff Wilkie, who is the CEO of Worldwide Consumer for Amazon.com. Basically, he's the second in command at Amazon. It's a great opportunity for our local business community to hear some of the insight from Mr. Wilkie. Tickets are $15 per person, and they are limited, so please visit hillsboroughbusiness.org to register for that. From our DPW department, the annual Hillsborough Township cleanup coupons are now available for both residential access to the Alton Road facility and for senior citizen curbside pickup. The purpose of the cleanup program is to allow residents the opportunity to dispose of old furniture, toys, rugs, appliances, etc. Please note that electronics and hazardous materials are not accepted at the Alton Road facility. For information on recycling electronics, hazardous waste, and materials that are not permitted, you can contact Somerset County at 732-469-3363 or visit their website at www.co.somerset.nj.us/recycle. From the Recreation Department, a reminder that the spring recreation activities and programs are open for registration. You can check out the spring activities guide on our website. We have lots of different programs, fitness programs, a youth scrapbooking class, a new STEM program called Bricks for Kids, where children learn about science, engineering, and technology with Legos. There is absolutely something for everyone, so please visit our recreation website to learn more about that. This is also your last chance to register for the official Run Around the Park and get a t-shirt. All participants who pre-register before March 31st will receive the t-shirt for the event. It will be held on Sunday, April 23rd at 8 p.m. And last, summer recreation camp registration is also underway. Camps for 5 to 11-year-olds are held at Alton Road and Amsterdam schools. Camps for 12 to 14-year-olds will be held at Hillsborough Middle School, and Tiny Camp for 4 to 5-year-olds will be held at Hillsborough Elementary School. Camps begin on Monday, June 26th, and run for 8 weeks through August 18th. Information and registration, again, is available on our Parks and Recreation website. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. A few things for me tonight. Just a reminder from the Finance Department. Notifications are mailed to all property owners that receive the homestead benefit rebate. Just a reminder, the amount due for the second quarter taxes is reflected on the small statement that you recently received, not the bill that you received in October. If you have any questions about the homestead benefit, please contact the state of New Jersey at 888-238-1233. Reminder from the Board of Health, the American Lung Association is supporting the Lung Force Walk at Colonial Park in Somerset on May 20th at 8:30 a.m. Their website is www.lung.org. There's a lot of information about the Lung Association and what they are there to provide. And the walk, again, is in Colonial Park, and more information will be found in this Friday's e-newsletter. There's a save the date. It's June 3rd. The annual Green Living and Wellness Fair will be in conjunction with the Hillsborough YMCA Hop 5K. It's a really great event. It's a lot of fun, so please come out and support. Participating local businesses will have informative presentations, displays, and demonstrations to raise awareness for living a healthy lifestyle. Organizations wishing to participate in the fair must register in advance by calling the Health Department. It's 908-369-5652. As always, more information will also be in the Friday's e-newsletter. And that's it for me this evening, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you. So I have a few items this evening. First, I'm going to start on behalf of Committeeman Delcor, Liaison Public Safety, involving Police Department. Each year, the Township Police Department selects top cops, one from each patrol squad, to be recognized for their exceptional performance for the previous year. The award recipients are determined based on a score devised from the annual job performance evaluations, along with ranking achieved from their respective supervisors and peers. For the first time, 2 officers tied for the highest ranking on one of the 2 patrol squads. Officer Joseph Pascal, Officer Jason Beverett, and Officer Craig Hendricks were awarded the top cop title for 2016 based upon their outstanding performance throughout the past year. They are formally recognized by the department and receive an acknowledgement in their personal file. In addition, the officers will have their names engraved on a plaque displayed in the lobby of police headquarters, honoring each year's recipient since the program's inception in 1996. Also, they will be awarded to a merit bar that is worn above the uniform badge. And just extend our congratulations to these 3 veteran police officers on their exemplary service to the township, earning them this distinct honor. We're fortunate here in Hillsborough to have a force of superior police officers, but to be recognized by your peers as a top cop for going above the call of duty is quite an achievement. So again, congratulations to the officers for their high standards given to our police department. Next, you drive, you text, you pay. Chief Darren Powell would like to remind residents of the 2017 distracted driving crackdown, both locally and nationally, from April 1st through April 21st, in an effort to raise awareness and decrease driver distraction through a combination of enforcement and education. Distracted driving can result in injuries and deaths to all road users. In 2014 alone, distracted driving-related crashes resulted in 3,179 deaths and 431,000 injuries on our nation's roads. In New Jersey, distracted driving was listed as a contributing circumstance in more than 800,000 crashes between 2010 through 2014. Again, we urge all residents and motorists to wait before they answer a text or to text. Next, Robo Raiders. Just wanted to extend a thank you to the Robo Raiders Robotics Team 75 for hosting an open house this past Saturday. Congressman Leonard Lance, Deputy Mayor McCauley, and Committeeman Thompson, along with myself, got a tour of all the great work that is going on there this year. And they were just about in preparing for the next upcoming competition that's going to be taking place. I do believe it's next Saturday, they said. Yep, and it's going to be just down the road at Montgomery High School. So hopefully can all come out and root on our Robo Raiders. Next, an American Red Cross update. American Red Cross is hosting a blood drive at the Woods Road Firehouse on April 26th from 2 to 7 p.m. They are in need of donors. To sign up to be a donor, you can call the toll-free number, which is 800-RED-CROSS, or go to the Red Cross website, which is redcrossblood.org, and enter the sponsor code Woods Road. Or you can email directly Samantha Han at shan1299@gmail.com, and we'll have that in the newsletter, just in case you missed that. We have a save the date. Just a reminder, all township veterans and spouses are invited to the annual Salute to Veterans Breakfast on Saturday, May 27th. Registration is required. please visit the Recreation website or call the Recreation office at 369-4832. Again, 369-4832 to register. Also, community organizations that wish to participate in the Memorial Day Parade are also welcome, but they are asked to also register through the Recreation Department. And from the last meeting, had asked for a call for volunteer nominations. The deadline for nominating a volunteer for this recognition is coming due this Friday, March 31st. And this is in recognition of April being National Volunteer Month. And again, we are seeking nominations to celebrate and honor those volunteers who dedicate their time and talent to be stewards and leaders within our community. Again, nominations and recommendations can be made by completing the online recommendation form through the Township website. And as always, can stay connected with all the events and more via the Friday newsletter, our Twitter, TV29, and the Hillsborough YouTube channel, showcasing our meetings like tonight. Also, episodes of Hillsborough The Good Life, which I know Kaz is excited for that, since he's our host star. And of course, there's always other information on township outgoings. And for traffic and emergency notifications, please sign up for Swift Reach 911. And that's all the announcements I have for this evening. So we are now moving on to proclamations. I will ask that once you receive your recognition, if you could please resume your seat until we have handed out all the proclamations to the recipients this evening. And then we will take a brief pause to allow for everyone to leave. So first up, first I will ask my fellow committee members to join me on all these proclamations this evening. And first up, any representative from the American Red Cross, join me in the front for a proclamation declaring March as American Red Cross Month.
Also, there's a few seats up here in the front. If anyone in the back would like to grab a seat right here, there's plenty of room in these front rows. Lloyd doesn't bite.
Whereas the American Red Cross has touched many lives in Hillsborough, as well as across the country and around the world. And whereas American Red Cross Month is a special time to recognize our everyday heroes and thank those who contribute to the mission of the Red Cross, whether through time, money, or blood. And we invite others to support the Red Cross in helping people in need down the street, across the country, and around the world. And whereas the American Red Cross is synonymous with helping people, and throughout the past year, the organization launched thousands of disaster relief operations, responding to an emergency every 8 minutes to help people affected by fires, floods, hurricanes, or tornadoes. And whereas the American Red Cross provides 24-hour support to members of the military, veterans, and their families, and provides training in CPR, aquatic safety, and first aid. And whereas in Hillsborough, the Red Cross works tirelessly through its employees and many volunteers to support us when disaster strikes, when someone needs life-saving blood or the comfort of a helping hand. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the members of the Hillsborough Township Committee, in conjunction with the President of the United States of America, do hereby declare March as American Red Cross. Be it further proclaimed that we, the Mayor and the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough, encourage all Americans to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission. Signed by the Mayor and the members of the Township Committee. Congratulations.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of the American Red Cross and the recognition from Hillsborough and the Township Committee. As the Mayor said, there's quite a bit of work that the Red Cross has done across the state. Just over the course of the last year, the Red Cross responded to over 700 individual disaster events, supporting over 1,800 families in the state of New Jersey. It's the dedication of the volunteers and donors and supporters like folks here in Hillsborough that make it possible. So we want to thank everybody for the acknowledgement, and we'll continue doing the good work of the state of New Jersey and the Township of Hillsborough.
Okay, Dr. Mary Bridgman, you can join us.
Mayor, before we begin, can we just note for the record that
Okay, yes, I was going to ask.
Committeeman Delcourt joined the meeting at 7:50, right at the point where the proclamation was given to the American Red Cross.
Okay, noted. Welcome, Committeeman.
Thank you. I'm sorry I had to play dad tonight as my daughter was at the National Honor Society induction, so thank you for indulging.
Congratulations. Whereas Hillsborough Township resident Dr. Mary Bridgman has been recognized by the Somerset County Commission on the status of women in celebration of Women's History Month. And whereas Dr. Bridgman was honored with the Education Award at the annual Outstanding Women in Somerset County Awards dinner. And whereas Dr. Bridgman is a clinical associate professor at the Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy, as well as an internal medicine clinical pharmacist at Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital. And whereas Dr. Bridgman graduated from the Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy at Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey. And whereas Dr. Bridgman has authored and co-authored many peer-reviewed publications and also a monthly contributor to a column that appears in a journal, Pharmacy Times. And whereas Dr. Bridgman is active in state, regional, and national societies that serve the pharmacy profession, as well as several committees at Rutgers University and Robert Wood Johnson Hospital. And whereas Dr. Bridgman shows passion, enthusiasm in her work as an educator and clinician and brings constant support and encouragement to her students both inside and outside the classroom. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough that Dr. Mary Bridgman is hereby recognized for her many contributions to the community. Be it further proclaimed that we, the Mayor and the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough, join the Somerset County Commission on the Status of Women in saluting Dr. Mary Bridgman for being honored with the Education Award and thank her for her dedication. Signed by the Mayor and the members of the Township Committee. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for this honor. Truly, I represent my colleagues at Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, my colleagues at the Ernest Mario School of Pharmacy, and all of the women in Somerset County who are doing remarkable things each and every day. Thank you.
Come on up. Usually I have a name to say.
How are you? You too.
Whereas National Nutrition Month started in 1973 as National Nutrition Week, and as popularity grew, National Nutrition Month was established in 1980. And whereas a reminder that each bite counts, the theme for 2017 is Put Your Best Fork Forward. I said that right. And whereas food is the substance by which life is sustained, and the type, quality, and amount of food that individuals consume each day plays a vital role in their overall health and physical fitness, as well as the prevention of chronic diseases. And whereas there is a need for continuing nutrition education and wide-scale effort to enhance good eating practices. And whereas National Nutrition Month, a nutrition education and information campaign sponsored annually by the Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, helps spread the word about the importance of healthy diet and regular exercise. Now therefore be it proclaimed by we, the Mayor of the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough, in conjunction with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and ShopRite of Hillsborough, do hereby declare March as National Nutrition Month. Be it further proclaimed that we, the Mayor and the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough, encourages all Hillsborough residents to join the campaign and become concerned about their nutrition and the nutrition of others in the hope of achieving optimum health for both today and tomorrow. Signed by the Mayor and the members of the Township Committee. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to Mayor Sirachi and the Township Committee for the proclamation. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sam. I'm the dietitian over at ShopRite in Hillsborough. Just like to let everybody know that all of the nutrition services through ShopRite are free, and if you guys have any nutrition questions or would like to collaborate in any way, my door is always open. I have a very small bowl of clementines in the back if anybody wants a snack on their way out. I didn't realize how many people were going to be here. But thank you so much. I truly do appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there anyone representing Municipal Alliance? No?
Hello.
No. There we go.
Mayor, you ever reluctant?
Whereas alcohol is the most commonly used addictive substance in the United States, where 1 in every 12 adults, 17.6 million people, suffers from alcohol abuse or dependence. And whereas an estimated 90,000 people die each year from excessive use of alcohol, such as drinking and driving crashes, other accidents, falls, fires, alcohol-related homicides, and suicides. And whereas more than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism or problem drinking, and more than 10% of children live in households where at least one parent is dependent on or has abused alcohol. And whereas young people aged 12 to 20 years old drink 11% of all alcohol consumed in the United States, with 90% of this being binge drinking, and where people begin drinking before age 15 are 5 times more likely to develop alcohol dependence than those who begin drinking at 21. And whereas alcohol-related problems cost America $224 million, it equates that to $746 per person, in lost productivity, absenteeism, healthcare costs, crime, and family-related problems. And whereas the typical American will see 100,000 beer commercials before he or she turns 18. And whereas the Hillsborough Millstone Municipal Alliance envisions having our local community understand that alcohol use and abuse is a chronic condition that can be successfully prevented and treated. The Municipal Alliance is a committee of volunteers who work tirelessly to provide programs focusing on education and prevention for all members of the community. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the Mayor and the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough, hereby join the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence Incorporated, known as NCADD, and do hereby proclaim that April 2017 as Alcohol Awareness Month in Hillsborough Township. Be it further proclaimed that we, the Mayor and the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough, also call upon all Hillsborough citizens, parents, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Hillsborough Township to support the efforts that will reduce stigma, increase community awareness, and increase support for individuals and families coping with alcoholism. Through these efforts together, we can provide help for today, hope for tomorrow, for those in our community who are facing challenges with alcohol use and abuse. Proclamation signed by the Mayor and the members of the Township Committee. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you very much. As the chair, I just wanted to say thank you to the township for the support. And someone had said earlier that the Municipal Alliance has been around for over almost 30 years. I haven't been on it the whole time. But we really want to get the word out and support this community to help each other work with the schools. The Municipal Alliance has always been supporting the schools, the seniors, from beginning to end, and it's been a wonderful thing. So we want to thank everyone for all your support and come out and join us.
I can always get cropped out. Why isn't this thing up?
Whereas Gil Pilardi has received the honor of Hillsborough High School Educational Services Professional of the Year for 2017 for his dedication and service to the Hillsborough School District. And whereas Mr. Pilardi is a student assistant counselor and co-advisor for sources of strength and peer mentoring at Hillsborough High School. And whereas Mr. Pilardi has been a faculty member of Hillsborough High School since 2006. And whereas Mr. Pilardi provides a safe haven for students who are struggling and in need of assistance. And whereas Mr. Pilardi is known for his sense of humor and ability to help students work through their struggles and concerns productively. And whereas Hillsborough High School is proud to have Mr. Pilardi as their Educational Services Professional of the Year, now therefore be it proclaimed that we, the Mayor and the Township Committee of Hillsborough Township, further proclaim Gil Pilardi for being recognized as the Hillsborough High School Educational Services Professional of the Year, and we thank him for all of his work and dedication to the youth of Hillsborough. Signed by the Mayor and the members of the Township Committee. Thank you.
This will be short and sweet. I was told I can tell a little story, so when I interviewed, I did say to the principal, you know, I'm looking for a home. If I don't fit here, I don't want to be here. And it's been over 10 years. So I'm glad to be part of the Hillsborough community, the school, and a great faculty, and I love the kids and the families. So thank you very much.
Cleaned up at the academy.
Your house? Representing house? Okay. All right. Whereas, realizing the urgent...
Excuse me, Mayor, we have
Oh, we do?
representation here, yes.
Okay. Oh, look at this. A lot of representatives. Okay. Whereas, realizing the urgent need for donors around the country, the National Donate Life Month observance was established in 2003 to promote a greater understanding about the life-saving benefits of donation. And whereas, established in 2012, National Donate Life Blue and Green Day on April 17, 2017, represents a national effort to support and raise awareness for organ and tissue donation and transplantation. And whereas the New Jersey Organ and Tissue Sharing Network, New Jersey Sharing Network, is committed to addressing that need through enhanced awareness. And whereas the transplantation of organs and tissues is a miracle of modern medicine made possible through the compassion of organ and tissue donors, enabling surgeons to save thousands of lives each year. Donors not only give the gift of life, but also often restore health and sight to the recipients of the tissue and organs. And whereas people of all ages, ethnic backgrounds, and religions are affected by the need for organ transplants, and there are nearly 5,000 New Jersey residents and over 120,000 Americans awaiting life-saving and life-enhancing transplant operations. And whereas every capable person should support this vital effort by learning more about donating tissues and organs, registering as an organ and tissue donor, making their families aware of their wishes, and be willing to give their precious gift of health, sight, and life to people in need. And whereas registering as an organ and tissue donor at a local motor vehicle agency or online at njsharingnetwork.org signifies our fundamental human responsibilities to help others. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the mayor and the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough, do hereby recognize National Donate Life Month and National Blue and Green Day as a great opportunity to join in the fight to save lives by giving the greatest gift. Be it further proclaimed that we, the mayor and the Township Committee of the Township of Hillsborough, urge all residents to join in promoting organ and tissue donor education through the National Donate Life Month observance. Signed by the mayor and the members of the Township Committee. Thank you, guys.
On behalf of the Sharing Network and the newly formed Donate Life Club at Hillsborough High School, I want to say thank you to the mayor and the committee. Right now in the state of New Jersey, there are around 5,000 people on a waiting list waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. Every day, 3 people are added to the list here in New Jersey, and every 3 days, someone dies while they're waiting for an organ transplant. That's about 120 people a year that are passing away while they're waiting. So we're here to recognize Donate Life Month, and we're here to honor those who received life-saving organ transplants. We're here to give hope to those who are waiting, and tonight we're here to remember those who gave, especially Matt Roth, son of Denise Roth and brother of Zach Roth, who donated and gave sight to someone and saved the lives of 5 through his incredibly generous gift of life. Please go to njsharingnetwork.org or registerme.org and register to be an organ donor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, just congratulations again to all the proclamation recipients. I know it was a little bit, extended time period can thank that to the weather from a couple of weeks ago that we had to bring everyone in tonight. But as I promised, we're going to take a brief pause. You are free to go. I know some of you may have some schoolwork to do, but you are welcome to stay, and we will take a brief pause. Thank you, everyone. Start away. Ready? Okay. Okay, we're ready to continue with this evening's meeting. Let's see. We do not have any new business at this time, so next is public comment on matters that are not on the agenda. If anyone has any comments they'd like to provide to the Township Committee on matters that are not on the agenda, please step to the mic. Okay. Seeing none, we will now move on to public hearings. Ordinance 2017-02, an ordinance amending Chapter 188, Land Use and Development of the Code of the Township of Hillsborough, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, to define and regulate certain utility facilities within the township. Further consideration, no, we're already doing the further consideration. So this ordinance, basically, the ordinance is meant to provide a clear and concise definitions of utilities that will distinguish between minor and major installations, and to identify which of the zones are appropriate locations for each type of utility. And we have our township planner, Dr. David Maskey, or Mr. I promoted you, Mr. David Maskey here this evening to provide further comment. Mr. Maskey, please.
Thank you, Mayor. In brief, as I mentioned at the introduction of the ordinance, this is as much a housekeeping measure as it is establishing new policy. Utilities are currently referred to in at least 5 different ways in the ordinance, and there is no one definition of what they are or where they should be. The proposed ordinance will accomplish 4 basic things. It will clearly define 3 levels of utilities: basic, minor, and major. Clearly define where each type of utility would be permitted and provide certain regulations to control them. Consolidate the utility requirements into one section in the ordinance. And finally, delete any inconsistent references within the ordinance. And that's pretty much all it does.
Okay, thank you, sir. May I have a motion to open public hearing on ordinance 2017-02?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any further discussion from the dais?
Mayor, we did review this matter at the planning board as well, as you know. So, as Mr. Maskey noted, it's really just a cleanup measure, but it does really help define the process of what the utilities will go into each of the various zones and how we will define them. It just creates much more clarity for both the planning board members and I think for the public as they go for bringing forth applications as to what's permissible in each zone and what type of build-out would be under each of the definitions. So it's really a housekeeping measure, but the planning board did recommend approval and to submit it back to the Township Committee for final approval.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the dais? From the floor? Okay, may I have a motion to close? Oh, sorry, sir.
I had one question. Does this have anything to do with cell towers?
All right, please state your name and address.
Lloyd Haas, Titus Court, Hillsborough. Does it have anything to do with this cell towers
No,
in a residential neighborhood?
That's a good question. This ordinance does not impact solar energy systems, small wind energy systems, or cell towers, telecommunications. They're contained in a different section of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion to close public hearing and to adopt ordinance 2017-02.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Committeeman Delcor.
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Yes?
Mayor Sarachi.
Yes. We do not have any introductions of new ordinances, so we will now move to considerations. First up, resolution authorizing the execution of a contract to Black Lagoon for pond management services at AVM Park in an amount not to exceed $6,050. There exists the need for pond management services at AVM Park, and Township solicited quotes for such services. 3 quotes were received, and as a result, a contract is being awarded to Black Lagoon for those services. May I have a motion?
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Any comments from the dais? From the floor? Come on up.
Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. What type of services? Is it dredging? Is it an algae problem? What type of services are being needed at the pond? Thank you.
You want to take this one?
It's mainly algae control and just making sure that the pond, nothing is developing within the pond.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes. Consideration number 2, a resolution authorizing the execution of a 3-year contract with Excel to provide phone lines and maintenance services for the township telephone system as recommended by the Director of Technology in amount not to exceed $28,654.80 per year. Our Director of Technology has recommended the award of a contract to Excel to provide the phone lines and maintenance services for the township's phone system. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from the dais? From the floor? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Committeeman Delcor?
Yes.
Committeeman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes. Consideration number 3, a resolution awarding contract to Robert Wood Johnson Health Services for the provisions of emergency medical services within the Township of Hillsborough for a term not to exceed 5 years. After thoughtful evaluation and deliberation, we're proceeding with the consideration of a contract award to Robert Wood Johnson Mobile Health Service, the only bidder in the process, to provide basic life support services for the township. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any additional comments from the dais?
Mayor, if I may, thank you. So I have the enviable and unenviable task of being the Emergency Services Liaison lead for this year. First off, I think we all recognize there's a emotional component to this resolution. I think we all recognize that and understand it. But I want to make sure that from the understanding of the public that's here and the public that will be watching and understanding what's going on, I want to make sure that the facts of the process, some of the history, and what's brought us to this point are clear in everyone's mind, because I think that's really what has moved us to where we are today. As we spoke about a month ago when we first had some discussion on this RFP, maybe a brief history of the rescue squad here in town. Back in 1955, the rescue squad was formed as solely a volunteer organization. That was the volunteer portion of our rescue squad. In 1988, there was a second company formed, which is called Hillsborough Emergency Medical Services, also known as HEMSCOR. That was formed for the sole purpose of having paid EMTs versus the rescue squad, which provided volunteers. And the rationale for that was because you couldn't have one organization that provided both paid EMTs and had volunteers. They couldn't be in the same organization, so a second company was formed. HEMS is not a township organization. It's not an agency of Hillsborough Township. It's a private entity, a 501c3, not for profit, but a private entity nonetheless. The HEMSCOR paid EMTs were there to cover the time periods when the volunteers were not able to cover shifts. And as time has passed, it's not a unique situation to Hillsborough. It's not a unique situation to New Jersey. Volunteer EMTs are a scarce breed. So over time, most of the process that has gone on from what had been at one time a volunteer organization has essentially become, where all the shifts are covered primarily by EMTs who are paid coverage. Not to malign, just the fact of where we are today. So as we sit today, nearly all of the calls that occur on our through 911 for basic life support services are through the HEMS Corps portion. That organization currently has about 6 full-time members, and the rest are either part-time or based on a per diem basis. Hillsborough Township is allowed to contribute by law a certain amount to support the rescue squad services here in town, and we do that to the tune of $52,500 per entity. So we provide $52,500 to the Hillsborough Rescue Squad, the volunteer portion, and $52,500 to HEMS Corps, for a total of $105,000. By direct contribution, that is our legal max. We have no luxury, we have no ability to provide direct contributions over and above that amount. That is a statutory limitation. We are allowed to pay for certain expenses that are incurred by the organization. If we pay them directly, invoices submitted to us, and we pay the invoices directly, and we do that as well. In aggregate, over about $300,000 plus is funded to the various 2 organizations by Hillsborough Township. And we also purchase the vehicles and allow use of them by HEMS and HRS. Back in 2014, the township made the decision to retain an outside consultant, Fitch & Associates, to perform an assessment of our current EMS services and the efficiency of its operations. Fitch is a nationally recognized consultant in the field of emergency services. It is one of the names that was provided to us by the chief of the HEMS Corps Rescue Squad here in town. There was a list of several. This was one of them, because we wanted to understand and have an assessment of how the operations were being conducted and if there were any issues with that. The assessment addressed current services, current and future needs of the township, and available options for the provision of services. The report was provided to HEMS and to HRS to understand the issues raised and understand the best practices that were outlined in the report. And we have worked with the organizations to see how we could best implement some of those practices and move to a situation where we had a sustainable. This issue came up the last time. What does sustainable mean? Sustainable means a viable, financially viable organization that we know will be there in the long term to provide these services to the residents of our town. In the 2 years since we've conducted that assessment and had that Fitch report, I can say that I believe the township's not convinced that the current organizations have been able to meet the performance standards in the report, and felt compelled to evaluate alternatives available to it for the provision of these EMS services through competitive contracting and the process of local public contracts law. So we went to bid, in essence. That's a fancy way of saying we went to bid to see what was available to provide that service. And then in January, we issued a comprehensive RFP for what is commonly known as BLS, or Basic Life Support Services. And that's essentially what is provided by the current organization today, in addition to rescue, and I'll get to that in a minute. Bid responses were due on February the 8th. We only had one respondent to that bid, despite a number of organizations, including our current providers, picking up the bid and having access and being able to submit, we had one viable respondent, and that was Robert Wood Johnson. Our current organization, HEMS, did not submit a reply to the bid. What did the RFP request? We requested BLS coverage 24/7, standby services at local community events, football games, township events, things of that nature, in addition to rehabilitation tents for when we have fires in town that are part of what our normal emergency management process. Understanding the equipment and maintenance needs of vehicles. Whether there was interest in working with the volunteer portion of the organization here in town. How we would handle dispatch and OEM coordination. Requirements for response times. Training and appearance. Compensation. Quality assurance. Records and reports that would be available to the township. Bidder qualifications. Experience in BLS services to local municipalities. The management team, education and training, references and staffing, among a few other things. Based upon the response to that RFP, here's what was proposed to be provided by the respondent, RWJ. There would be 2 crews and vehicles available in town 24/7. Those vehicles are stationed in town. I think there's a misconception that somehow those vehicles would be dispatched either from Somerville or from New Brunswick or from Hamilton or wherever else RWJ has hospital services. There are 2 vehicles that will be stationed in Hillsborough at all times. There will be 2 other vehicles that are on the outskirts of town in surrounding areas that, as those vehicles would be deployed to a call, there would be backup services available. The current service we have provides for 2 vehicles during the day, only 1 crew on from midnight to 6 a.m. And, sorry for the other.
You'll have your time.
Please.
We're not going to get unorganized, and we expect full respect. It'll be reciprocated.
So we will actually have more vehicles 24/7 than we currently have today. There will be standby for community events, including most school-sponsored events and sporting events, local and youth organization events, township events, and rehabilitation stations to support our fire companies. Response times, 90%, that's the standard. 90% of the calls will be better than the national average at 10 minutes and 59 seconds. That is the standard. As I said, 2 vehicles at all times in town. The organization has indicated that from the standpoint of the volunteer portion of our organization, they want to continue to work with that organization, promote it, train it, provide additional learning to that organization, and work with it. And the understanding is that in the event that we do have a volunteer crew that is available to respond to service calls, they will actually be dispatched first to be able to go on learning and understanding how to handle those direct volunteer calls. But RWJ is intending to work with that. So the portion that is volunteer essentially would continue and probably flourish more so than it has today. You can chuckle. There are 6 full-time employees now at the organization. This is directly from the organization. That's not my number. Robert Wood Johnson expects to hire approximately 16 more people into their organization to support what Hillsborough is doing as well as some other surrounding towns. Those are opportunities for our full-time EMTs, our paid EMTs, to have direct access and job opportunities with Robert Wood. It's not a situation where we're looking to outsource or put people out of work. The natural flow of this is that people would migrate to the hospital to provide the same service they're providing today just through the hospital. The RFP was reviewed by 4 people within the township, myself, Committeeman Thompson, our CFO, who's also our qualified purchasing agent, meaning she's the one that's responsible for procurement and bids, as well as our lead for the Office of Emergency Management. All of us reviewed it, and it's a fully compliant response to the RFP. The services that they will provide are greater or equal to what we have today. There is a significant amount of new vehicles that would be available to service us, as well as the fact that when you look at the cost of the service to be provided, where we are currently subsidizing the current organizations, Robert Wood Johnson will provide those services at no cost to the municipality. And that's a zero, no cost. And that does not mean they're passing it off to the high school. That does not mean they're passing it off to Hillsborough Junior Raiders or the Dukes. The services that have been outlined within the RFP are at zero cost. I don't mean to indicate that that means that individuals that utilize the service will not have some billing. You do that, you have that today under the current organization, under the current structure of what we do. That is the nature of BLS service. If you have insurance that is going to be supporting, if you have health insurance, whatever the health insurance picks up, they will be billed for, just as they would through the hospital. There is no difference in that process. I also want to make sure everyone's clear that we're not breaking any new ground here. There seems to be this misunderstanding that somehow, we're leading a charge outside of what is some other organizations are doing. The hospital is already providing the service to Franklin, I believe Manville and Southbound Brook. Bridgewater and Raritan will be coming on board around the same time that we're looking at this. They're also in the middle and have responded to, they're putting on their agendas in the next week or so. They also provide Piscataway, New Brunswick, and East Windsor and Hamilton, large municipalities. There is experience and support for the process. This is not something that we are undertaking that has not been tested or tried before. And again, there's a financial impact here at a minimum of $300K of service in addition to the vehicles. The rescue process will be picked up. The plan would be, if this resolution is approved this evening, that the rescue would be picked up by the fire companies. They're already providing some of that service today. So what we have here is a situation where we have a comprehensive bid that was submitted. We had one respondent, and the response is not only compliant, but it provides significant services to the municipality, as well as significant savings to the municipality. It's the same private organization, same type structure of private organization as we are dealing with in today's municipality, with what we're dealing with Hillsborough. A private organization that is not an agency of the township. So I look at the process, I look at what has gone on in terms of undertaking a consultant study, working to see how we could improve the efficiency of the process, and then submitting an RFP to make sure that we got the best services possible for our residents, for our taxpayers. And what we're left with now is that response, and that's what we're looking to deal with this evening. So I'm sure there are some that, don't believe what I said. You're certainly entitled to that. But that is the fact of the matter of what the RFP response. And if you haven't seen it, if you did not look at it online, I suggest you do, because all of that is outlined. It's documented in the paperwork, not something that we're making up out of whole cloth. So with that, Mayor, I just wanted to make sure that those facts were out on the table so everyone understood what was proposed and what was responded to.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the dais? All right, so to touch upon a couple, or maybe not touch upon them, but maybe to add some additional facts that have raised concerns, from my point of view, that I don't think has been brought out to the public yet, is, we're talking about sustainability. One of those things is financial sustainability. Now, the building that the rescue squad currently resides in was provided free. It was free and clear. About 10 or so years ago, a mortgage was taken out on that building. Refinanced again a couple of years ago. No indication that the payment or the principal is being paid down. There is right now a mortgage due on that building of $550,000. There's also, from what we see from audit reports, loans of about $160,000 from the rescue squad to HEMSCOR. There was a meeting a couple of weeks ago between the management of HEMSCOR, their attorney, and with Committeeman Delcourt and Thompson. Question was asked, where do those funds go? Where were they used? What's the plan for repayment? There was no answer. There was, again, opportunities for the last 2 weeks for those to be provided. That's why probably some of you, I'm anticipating is why this item didn't come up on the agenda on the first draft of this evening's agenda. We were given the management team of HEMSCOR the opportunity through the weekend to provide answers to those very basic questions. Where did almost $700,000 go? Silence. That has me very concerned. Now, one of the other things that I think Committeeman Delcourt was alluding to, I want to make sure that there's two parts to this resolution tonight. The first is having an entity to provide the basic life support services. Currently, the HEMSCOR, which is a business entity, I think there is some confusion or out there or perhaps a misunderstanding that it's a volunteer organization. It's not. It's a business entity. No different than Robert Wood Johnson is a business entity. So what this went out for was a bid for any business entity to bid on for these services, what to provide. The second component, which I know has gotten lost in the past couple of meetings when there's been some, we've had some, comments during the open business or open public session of our meetings, is with regards to a volunteer squad. We don't have a true volunteer squad today. Wherever that went, it disappeared years ago. What the second component of this is and I believe it is in the proposal or the bid submitted by Robert Wood Johnson, would be the reestablishment of a true volunteer organization here in Hillsborough. I think where the hopes are is to perhaps mimic the success that Montgomery Township has with their EMS, where it's totally self-sufficient with an account balance of around $1.2 million. So just want to make sure that that is clear going forward, that there is a two-component. And that, yeah, it is our desire is to seek, or to see a volunteer squad here. We're not getting rid of anything. Again, that disappeared a long time ago. So, with that, and I'm going to make the assumption there, no one has any comments in this evening's consent agenda, to make sure that we give everyone opportunity to comment. Just want to perhaps give a rough estimate of how many people may be interested in providing comment. Okay. I'm letting my attorney to estimate how much time.
Looks about 15.
Okay.
Want to comment?
Okay.
It's like 20.
Bonus golfers give me the maybe, maybe not.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Well, it's up to you, Mayor, as far as the time limits for comment, but I think we want to make sure you allow, sufficient time so everybody at least has an opportunity to speak. So if you say there's 20 people and we give each person 3 minutes, that goes over an hour. But that's the pleasure of the chair.
So I'm going to ask everyone to please keep their comments so that everyone gets an opportunity. If we can do it within 3 minutes. And remember, this is comments for the item that is under consideration before the Township Committee. I will allow questions for clarification purposes, but this is really not going to be turning into a Q&A session. I think those have already occurred. Certainly with the management team of Hemsworth. There are postings online of many of the anticipated frequently asked questions for probably at least a month.
Yes.
And we've had the RFP up online too, so that's been fully available to the public. So what I will ask is, again, when you do come up, please state your name and address for the record, and try to keep it for 3 minutes. So probably could start lining up whoever wants to come up first.
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Corinne McCann-Trainer. I'm an attorney at Fox Rothschild, and I represent Hemsworth. Earlier today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Attorney Willard and provided him a copy with a letter. I understand that it's been circulated.
It has, thank you.
Thank you. I will limit my comments to those that are already in the letter, if it's okay with you.
Sure.
Thank you. Dear Mr. Willard, this firm has been retained to represent Hillsborough Emergency Medical Services Corporation with respect to the request for proposal issued by the Township of Hillsborough on December 20, 2016 for emergency medical services. It is our understanding that you represent the Township. It is also our understanding that although no resolution on the issue was originally listed on the published agenda, a resolution was added late yesterday, and therefore, at this committee meeting, you will be considering that resolution with respect to the February 7, 2017 bid submitted from Robert Wood Johnson. It is also our understanding that the Township's CFO, Nancy Costa, and you have reviewed the RFP specifications, Robert Wood Johnson's bid, and on March 24, 2017, a memo was issued recommending that the committee adopt a resolution to award the contract to Robert Wood Johnson. We are therefore writing to outline some of our concerns for the committee's consideration and prior to the committee's vote. We ask that you provide a copy of this letter to the mayor, deputy mayor, and committeemen prior to the vote on any such resolution for their consideration individually as well. First, we understand that Robert Wood Johnson has proposed an arrangement under which certain services, including EMS and standby services, would be provided at free of charge. However, the anti-kickback statute makes it a criminal offense to knowingly and willfully offer, pay, solicit, or receive any remuneration to induce or reward referrals of items or services reimbursable by a federal health care program. The Office of Inspector General of the Department of Health and Human Services, OIG, has considered the application of anti-kickback statute in the context of ambulance contracts with municipalities in its 2003 OIG ambulance compliance guidance. the OIG provided therein, that ambulance suppliers should not offer anything of value to cities or other EMS sponsors in order to secure an EMS contract. We are concerned that Robert Wood Johnson's offer to provide these valuable services at no cost would constitute an impermissible kickback intended to induce not only reimbursable ambulance transport business, but also to capture hospital revenue from patients transported by Robert Wood Johnson's ambulances in violation of the Social Security Act. Second, we are concerned that if the committee awards the contract to Robert Wood Johnson, that action would be construed as the product of corruption, inequality, and unfairness. The New Jersey Supreme Court provides the following guidance. The question is whether there is a potential for conflict, not whether the public servant succumbs to the temptation or is even aware of it. Our concerns relate to our understanding that Committeeman Greg Burchett has acted as the EMS liaison for the committee, has been continually involved in every critical decision as to the evaluation of the Township's EMS services and the bidding process to date, and has a business relationship with Robert Wood Johnson that he advertises on his company's website. We are therefore concerned that Committeeman Burchett has a conflict of interest and that it has incurably tainted these proceedings and this committee's deliberation as to the RFP and the sole bid of Robert Wood Johnson. Committeeman Burchett has participated in all critical and relevant official actions on this subject to date. As the committee minutes reflect, on April 8, 2014, then Deputy Mayor Burchett moved for approval of a non-fair and open contract with Fitch and Associates for an EMS system evaluation of the Hillsborough Rescue Squad and Hems Corporation. Then Deputy Mayor Burchett's motion was seconded by Committeeman Frank Delcourt and unanimously approved. In Fitch's professional services agreement dated April 9, 2014, at paragraph 8, Fitch represented that it was not employed or retained and will not be rendering services for an individual, company, municipality, or other entity which would create a conflict of interest by virtue of its services that it would be providing to the township. Fitch also represented that all information, strategies, positions which it gains knowledge of by virtue of this work is confidential in nature and would not be disseminated to any third party. However, in footnote 6, on pages 48 and 49 of its 52-page September 20, 2014 report, Fitch admitted that its affiliate provides management services under contract for Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital Mobile Health Service, its EMS. Fitch also admitted that as of June 1, 2014, its affiliate provides full oversight for the operation at Robert Wood Johnson, Somerset. Fitch states that it disclosed its relationship with Robert Wood Johnson to township officials prior to the initiation of the consultation. In addition, in violation of the purpose of the confidentiality clause of the agreement and the Open Public Records Act, Fitch's report was publicly distributed, despite its specific reflection of Hems's confidential information, thus providing an advantage to competitors or bidders. In light of these events, we are concerned that this committee's consideration or reliance on the Fitch report in any way or at any time constitutes a violation of the local public contract law and local government ethics law. We are also concerned that Committeeman Burchett is motivated by his own financial and business interests in promoting the instant agenda. It is our understanding that Committeeman Burchett owns Bridgewater Motor Works. The company website states that it offers engine, transmission, and general repair services for vehicles in various fleets, ranging from cars used for delivery or sales jobs to the most sophisticated ambulance or emergency service vehicles. Among these listed fleets is Somerset Medical Center Emergency Medical Services, which merged with Robert Wood Johnson approximately 1 year before then Deputy Mayor Burchett moved for approval of the resolution to retain Fitch's consulting services. The merger transaction closed approximately 1 year later, in June 2014, a fact that Fitch recognized in footnote 6 of its report. These decisions, initiated by Committeeman Burchett, set the wheels in motion and ultimately led to the December 20, 2016 Township Committee meeting. With Committeeman Burchett's active participation, this committee proceeded by way of a consent agenda and approved the resolution to issue the RFP for EMS as recommended by Fitch. Indeed, the RFP specifications track the recommendations of Fitch's report. Moreover, the RFP could be construed as soliciting the business of a single bidder, Robert Wood Johnson, to the exclusion of Hems. Nancy Costa's March 24, 2017 recommendation that the committee adopt a resolution to award the contract to Robert Wood Johnson compounds the perception that the committee's actions violate the spirit and letter of local public contract law and the local government ethics laws, the attendant code of ethics that applies to local government officers and employees. Committeeman Burchett's involvement in the decision to issue the RFP is very troublesome, given Fitch's proclaimed business relationship with Robert Wood Johnson and Committeeman Burchett's business relationship with Robert Wood Johnson, which he promotes on his company's website. New Jersey black letter law requires government officials to act solely in the public interest. They must turn square corners. We are concerned that given the above outlined series of events, any decision of this committee to adopt the resolution to award a contract to Robert Wood Johnson would be a violation of the letter and spirit of the New Jersey Supreme Court guidance in this area, local public contract law, local government ethics law, and the anti-kickback statute. Therefore, we strongly recommend that the mayor, deputy mayor, and committeemen take these concerns under advisement before casting their individual votes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything?
Mayor, I did have a chance to review the letter and I spoke with, I'm sorry. I did have a chance to review the letter and I spoke with Ms. Traynor over the phone. After receiving the letter, I did do some research on this. I am 100% confident that there is no violation of the anti-kickback statute, nor was anything cited from the Office of Inspector General that would apply to the facts and circumstances stated herein. We also know for a fact that not only Robert Wood Johnson, but there's other hospitals within the state of New Jersey who are doing this very same thing. And that's happening throughout New Jersey and that I know of, and I imagine it's also happening throughout the country. So I'm very confident, 100% confident in advising the Township Committee that there is absolutely no violation of the anti-kickback statute. With respect to Committeeman Burchett's, that's the second point, Committeeman Burchett's involvement in this matter. Committeeman Burchett was in fact involved in, as they've indicated, the Fitch voting on with a majority. It was a 100% vote, 5 out of 5 voted that the analysis should be performed by Fitch. He was one of those 5. At that point in time when he made that vote, there was no conflict of interest. Robert Wood Johnson Hospital was not involved. Then came the point in time when we made the decision, again, it was a unanimous decision amongst the committee members to go out to bid. And at that point in time, Robert Wood Johnson was not involved. When Robert Wood Johnson then was the only bidder and submitted a response, Committeeman Burchett contacted me, indicated that he had, although he was doing more business with Somerset Medical Center and his business has actually gone down since Robert Wood Johnson took over that health facility, he indicated that he does in fact do some business with Robert Wood Johnson. At that point in time, we had that discussion, and I indicated to him, and he was very good with it, that he would not participate in the process. He has not participated in this process whatsoever since Robert Wood Johnson rendered that response to the request for proposals. There's absolutely no conflict of interest. He has not been involved in the evaluation process. Therefore, again, I am 100% confident that A, the local public contracts law has been complied with, B, there is no conflict of interest that tainted any of these proceedings, and C, that the anti-kickback statute does not apply. I am 100% confident if that was ever challenged in any court of law, they would lose. I think you are free to vote on this as however you see fit tonight. You have a resolution in front of you. However you see fit, you can vote on with confidence that none of those things apply.
Okay. And I guess a couple other things I just wanted, I think, just for clarification, the attorney began with a statement that was incorrect. Committeeman Burchett has never been the lead to public services or emergency service specifically. And also, just to remind everyone that in the Township Committee form of government, no one has more vote than anyone else. We all are equal at 20%. So, and I think that's what the attorney was getting to, was even if Mr. Burchett somehow, with his vote, it's 20%, there was still 3 other votes that moved this along, so.
But more importantly, Mayor, I want to point out that
that's right, Robert Wood
at
Johnson
no
was
point in
not
time did he have a
You're right.
conflict of interest when he voted on
Right.
those prior things?
You're exactly
He
right.
had no legal conflict of interest when he voted to approve the Fitch resolution and when he approved to go out to RFP. His conflict of interest only would arise when that RFP was submitted by Robert Wood Johnson Hospital.
Right.
And that's when he brought it up, and he has, to his credit, has stayed out of the process since then.
Right. No, you're correct, and along with that, I think Committeeman Delcor even had said, named the individuals that were involved in the evaluation process, which Committeeman Burchett was not involved in that, so I concur with your conclusion. Thank you, sir.
Judy Haas, Titus Court. I'm a member of the Board of Education, but I'm speaking as a private citizen. I'm so glad that you were able to very quickly dismiss what the attorney said here, because what I would like to say to you is that at the last minute, you said to Robert McDonnell that when he asked you if you worked for any other towns who had gone through this, and you said no. Well, I happen to have minutes from Greenbrook showing otherwise. And Mr. Willard was Greenbrook's township attorney in 2015 when Greenbrook had a problem with their rescue squad. They were using Robert Wood Johnson for 6 o'clock to 6 in the morning to 6 at night, because that's the profitable part of the day. And Greenbrook's rescue squad was doing the evenings and weekends, all the non-billable hours, right? So be that all as it may, the rescue squad had had some defections, and they tried to get Robert Wood Johnson 24/7. And now I'm going to read through these minutes. If my husband would hold on for that for me. Okay. Reorg minutes, Mr. Willard, Township Attorney for Greenbrook.
Judy, speak closer to the
Should be RFP related, right? Okay, so here it is. First of all, there's a notation, just to be sure he was at that meeting. Mr. Willard stated that the executive session will cover contract negotiations for EMS services from Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital and the Borough of North Plainfield. Action may be taken afterwards in open session. And they actually came out afterwards and gave a result. And here was the report from Mayor Searfoss of Greenbrook. Mayor Searfoss stated that the purpose of the executive session was to discuss the current EMS issues regarding staffing and response times. Given the situation that was brought to the attention of the township by acting EMS Chief Breen, the Township Committee needs to act in the best interest of the residents to ensure their safety. The Township Committee decided to seek proposals for 24/7 EMS coverage. The proposals received from Robert Wood Johnson University and Hospital and Borough of North Plainfield for 24/7 EMS coverage were both discussed. The proposal from Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital would cost the township a significant amount of about $250,000 to $500,000. The proposal from North Plainfield provides the coverage free of charge for the township. Because of these factors, it was decided the township will move forward with 24/7 EMS coverage from the Borough of North Plainfield. In addition, North Plainfield provided EMS coverage to the township previously and has the added benefit of familiarity with the township. The concern to the Township Committee is and always has been the safety of the people of Greenbrook, and the true uncertainty of the staffing and length of response time has made this decision necessary. I would really like to know why Mr. McDonnell was told that you had no experience about this. And then he also asked the question about how other towns feel about it. And you said, Mr. Ferrara, that all of the township administrators that you called told you there was no problem. Well, how about the fact that when Greenbrook was desperate because they had lost volunteers, that no township administrator told you that Robert Wood Johnson wanted to do a bait and switch on them and get them when they were desperate for $250,000 to $500,000.
Ms. Haas, that's
Hold on.
that's innuendo.
Can I respond? Because I know all the facts and they've been told and misrepresented. totally misrepresented.
Sure.
It's right in the minutes.
And
I'm not misrepresenting it.
No,
Your clerk.
you're characterizing what's in the minutes. I've read the minutes. I know exactly what it is. I am still the township attorney.
Did they or did they not ask for $250,000?
Ms. Haas, let him, you
If
used
you'd
your
like me
3
to
minutes.
respond, I will respond. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. Greenbrook Township had a volunteer squad. The squad became dysfunctional. It couldn't cover it. It also had supplemental from, at that point in time, it was Somerset Medical Center. It was not Robert Wood Johnson. It was Somerset Medical Center. And Somerset Medical Center was providing coverage.
2015.
If you let me finish. Somerset Medical Center was providing coverage within the municipality from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You indicate that that's because it's the most profitable time. Actually, what it works out to be is volunteers usually work, and they can't cover that period, the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., because they go to work. So that's the time that the township needed coverage. And Somerset Medical Center was providing it at no cost to the township. When Somerset Medical Center got taken over by Robert Wood Johnson kept that up. But then it came a point in the time when the squad became so dysfunctional that we were going to need coverage on a 24/7 basis. So they went out and they asked Robert Wood Johnson if they could provide that coverage. And Robert Wood Johnson came back and they said yes, but it was going to cost, unlike the bid here, it was going to cost the township $200,000. Therefore, the township explored other options and found out that North Plainfield, through a shared services agreement, would provide it for free for the township. So the township went with the for free option. Here, and I was wondering the same thing, why Robert Wood Johnson would bid $200,000 for Greenbrook, but yet for Hillsborough, it would bid zero. And I've been informed that the reason is because Hillsborough, because of its large geography, they believe they're going to get a sufficient amount of calls, their relationship to, location-wise, to the other SASS municipalities, to the services that they provide in New Brunswick, Franklin, and the fact that they come out of New Brunswick and they have come out of Somerville, that this geographic location and the size of the municipality and the number of calls was worth it to them to come back and say, you know what, we'll do it for zero. But where Greenbrook was located and the amount of calls that would come out of tiny Greenbrook, it wasn't worth it for them, and it would be a loss leader for them, and therefore, they came back and they said, we'll do it, but it's going to cost you $200,000, and the township, under those circumstances, made the option to go with the free choice. Those are the facts.
Greenbrook is a fraction of the size of Hillsborough.
Exactly.
And for $250,000, they were already doing 6 to 6. It was just the additional piece that they were being asked to do.
With all due respect, I'm not sure what you're arguing here.
My point is, we have a service that actually charges less than $250,000.
We do.
And you know, you guys keep talking about sustainability. You keep talking about sustainability in terms of the rescue squad. What about Somerset Medical Center? What about Somerset Medical Center? They got taken over by Robert Wood Johnson. They now got taken over by Barnabas. Now they're advertising that everybody who's got Aetna insurance is, you know, they're in negotiations. But everybody should keep getting their surgery there. What do they care if people wind up paying out of network costs? It's now a conglomerate, okay? And the service that they're going to provide for the town is going to be conglomerate type of service. All they care about is making their money. What are you people going to do when they can't make their money and they come back to you and say, we can't do this anymore? You won't have a rescue squad left. You'll have no options, and they will hit you up for $500,000 in a heartbeat. They had them over the barrel. They had Greenbrook over the barrel, and they took advantage of it. And that's going to happen right here. And one other comment.
Now, Ms. Haas?
Yes.
6 minutes, actually 7 minutes. Thank you for your comments. I can characterize that you are in disagreement with the approval of this resolution.
I have one very simple question. Frankly, I still would like to know why, when the man asked at the last meeting if there was any other past experience that anybody knew about, nobody brought this forward to the public. Would you care to answer that?
No, because it's a cute. If you would like to take it up, you can call Mr. Ferrara. This is irrelevant.
The entire public would like to know why you didn't answer
I don't hold myself out as an expert in EMS services.
All right. Ms. Haas.
I have have one just
No,
final
7
question.
minutes.
Excuse me.
Anybody can yield.
Everyone can come to the mic after she's done, okay?
Okay. One last
No.
question. North Plainfield, when they were chosen, was actually preferred because they used Somerset County Dispatch instead of Robert Wood Johnson, which has 2 systems. But in your RFP, the very thing that excluded our rescue squad was a requirement that they use PSAP. Does anybody have any idea how many people in Somerset County have PSAP other than Somerset County? But you put it in your RFP as a requirement, knowing that our rescue squad could not meet that.
It's not accurate.
It's not accurate.
Mayor, before you go, because she got to...
I know, that last comment was not accurate, so
Yeah,
you wanna
since
continue.
Ms. Haas wanted to attack me, Ms. Haas, the people that I contacted were the people that use Robert Wood Johnson currently today. So in Greenbrook is not using them, so in calling the administrators, I called the ones that are currently using Robert Wood Johnson. So the comment was accurate. Okay, so...
Excuse me, if you have a comment, you can come to the microphone,
Remember
please. Thank
from
you.
the Board of Ed should know better. Manners.
I'm not here as a member of the Board of Ed, I'm here as a private citizen.
I'm just saying, manners.
Excuse me,
You've
all the comments will come to the microphone, and you'll make your comments, please. Thank you. I don't want to have to say that again, please.
The other thing I would like to mention, Mayor, is including Ms. Haas, is that when people come into the microphone, they should also mention if any themselves or anyone in their family are paid members of HEMS Court as well. So anyone in the family, I would think that would be important. So if people come to the microphone and they're paid by HEMS Court or their family, I think they also you're talking about conflicts of coming as well.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. If you'd like to come to the microphone. Enough.
Come to the microphone. They asked you to come to the microphone.
Go to the microphone.
No, enough. We have other people that would like to speak. Please come forward. No, I want you to act like a rational human being.
My son has been an EMT since he was 16 years old. Most of that time was as a volunteer. He happens to be in the best medical school right now in the goddamn country because of that experience. So knock yourselves out about that. Don't you ever talk about
Thank you for letting us know he's a paid HEMS Court employee. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Harry Burke. I live at 2 Seeping Ground.
Thank you.
So, after reading over the Fitch report and the RFP, the public comment that I would like to make is, from my standpoint, I feel like this process was, it got off to an improper start with the Fitch report. As I understand it, the township, of course, was presented with 4 agencies. One of them was Fitch to do an overall assessment of the Hillsborough Rescue Squad service to the township. And the issue that I have with the township picking Fitch is that Fitch at the time had a contractual relationship with Robert Wood Johnson. They even put it in the report in their disclaimer on, as the attorney mentioned earlier, on page 48, and I'll read it again. An affiliate of Fitch and Associates provides management services under contract for Robert Wood Johnson UH Mobile Health Services or Robert Wood Johnson University Hospitals EMS services. And the township was notified about this. This relationship, again I'm quoting, was disclosed to township officials prior to the initiation of consultation. So, what I'm seeing here is, Fitch had a direct contractual relationship with Robert Wood Johnson, meaning that, should Fitch have written a negative report of HEMS's services to the township, say what you want, a direct benefactor of that would be, if it happened, negative report would have been Robert Wood Johnson, a contractual relationship with Fitch. So if that is not the definition of a conflict of interest, I really don't know what is. And I understand that affiliate doesn't work at Fitch anymore, but the fact that this conflict was presented to the township before the report was conducted, to me says that There was no effort to go after, I don't know, I hope there was, to go after any of those other 3 names that were presented to the township. And if one of those other agencies had a conflict, you move to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, until you find an agency that has the ability to conduct an even-handed report. So from the very least, there was a perception of a conflict of interest. And I don't know if the township worked as hard as they could to find an agency that could have provided a more even-handed report. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Burke, you do know, and also just for disclosure, that you are a candidate for Township Committee.
Yeah, I do appreciate the free publicity on the
I
podcast.
appreciate you coming out to your second meeting. Nice and welcome. And you do know that that those reports are very expensive to produce. And you do know that Fitch is nationally recognized and came as one of the 4, as you said, was a list presented to us by Chief David Gwynn.
Well, first off, I again appreciate the unpacked house of free publicity. I could always use it.
Well, it's for disclosure for those at home to know.
I know. I
knows
understand.
it's up here.
Go ahead. But outside of this room, yes, I'm a candidate for public office. But here right now, I'm a concerned citizen that's lived in this town my entire life, that has neighbors that are HEMS workers, that has personal stories connected with HEMS workers, and I would really be sad to see them go. And I'm coming here to voice that concern and the concern that I have with the Fitch report. And I understand. Good for them. I understand that they are a nationally recognized consulting agency, and to do a report is expensive. Does going and meeting with consulting agencies cost as an absurd amount of money as you're claiming to say? To find an agency on the internet or through other means that doesn't have a conflict of interest. So to me, that also says that you're caring more about the expenses of the report over doing an even-handed report.
It is plenty even-handed. I would like, you to state, what disputed in there, in that report. I think it was very factual. They did it, with the best intentions, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be nationally recognized, and then David Gwynn would not have recommended them to us to actually be someone for consideration for that report.
Well, if the board had merit, I don't think it would have a disclaimer in it. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Dave Rady, 20 Dogwood Drive, Hillsborough. Frank Delcourt, thank you very much for your explanation, but there's a few things I would like to clarify with you. One is, over a 10-year period in Hillsborough here, the Hillsborough Rescue Squad kept me alive. I had a heart condition, and these guys brought me back to life 3 times. Nobody in the township, nobody in this building has used it more than I have personally. I worked in New Brunswick for 47 years, and I seen the response of Robert Wood Johnson's rescue squad and their EMT guys. 2 months ago, as a pedestrian, I was hit by a car. It took them 20 minutes. I am 2 miles away from Robert Wood Johnson's hospital. It took them 20 minutes to get there and pick me up off the side of the road. Hillsborough Rescue Squad has always been to my house within 5 minutes. You cannot compare the two. I'm telling you right now, what we have here is the best. I see what goes on in New Brunswick. I've been there for 47 years. I see the response time. What they're telling you and what is factual is wrong. I'm telling you right now. And if you ask a lot of people in New Brunswick, you really do your survey and you do your homework, you'll see that on paper they look great, but in reality, they're not there. They really aren't. 20 minutes to pick up a guy laying on the side of the road, just been hit by a car, is unacceptable. So I just want to get you guys to know some of the facts.
I'm sure there are multiple stories
There's a lot
that
of
are very
reasons for
similar to
that.
yours, and I don't in any way mean to say that there hasn't been wonderful service that's been provided to many of our residents.
But it's extremely important. Hillsborough is so big. If you look at our mileage, if you look at all the way up in the mountain, all the way over to Somerville, BELLE, MEAD, and NESHANIC, there's no way Robert Wood's going to be able to cover that. They're not going to be able to do it. It's just too big for them.
I think he's
Hillsborough can do it, but
Yeah. Again,
It's a
they're
lot of land.
stationed here, though. I want you to make sure we're clear on that. They're stationed here.
I know, but
Okay,
I
I
seen the
do-
response time
okay.
from 2 miles away. And it's not just me. I have seen accidents in front of my business. I have seen a lot of ambulance work, and the response time is extremely slow. Don't think you're gonna be there in 5 or 10 minutes. It's not gonna happen. It's a 20-minute wait minimum, what you're gonna get out of this facility that you're proposing to bring online.
Thank
So, I just wanted you guys to know the truth.
Thank you.
Jane Statz, Devonshire Court. I know you guys are always hearing, the Hillsborough residents are always complaining about taxes, and they always are demanding about our taxes, or they want lower taxes, and you want to address that. So obviously, your cost is a major consideration with this. So the cost for our current Hillsborough Emergency Squad is about $300,000, and that's about 1% of the budget. But when you're making a decision, cost should not be the only part of it. Part of making a good decision is considering other things. For example, our rescue squad, they've been doing a great job for many years. And part of that is their familiarity with Hillsborough. They're very familiar with the Hillsborough residents, and the residents are familiar with them. They're not just a business entity. Robert Wood Johnson, yes, they are truly a business entity. And, okay, maybe technically ours is, but the familiarity with Hillsborough and with its residents and the residents knowing them, the familiarity with our roads, the geography of Hillsborough, like you mentioned, the mountain and, you know, how spread out it is, that can make a difference between life and death. And you can't measure that in dollars and cents. And also, as Judy Haas mentioned earlier, Robert Wood Johnson's part of a conglomerate, and which means that they have many masters. So I don't think that they're always going to put the needs of the Hillsborough residents first, but our rescue squad and our EMS, they have one master, the residents of Hillsborough. So they will always put, they've always been putting the needs of Hillsborough first, and they will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just do want to just remind, and for purpose of disclosure, that you're also running for Township Committee, but as a member... Get online, please. Get online, please. Got a comment, get online. So, the point I was trying to make is we do need to be factual here. And as I stated beforehand, that this resolution has two components to it. Again, paid service, which as you have been focused on Robert Wood Johnson. Second component is bringing back a true Hillsborough volunteer organization. We don't have that. The other consideration, like you said, there are other factors too, and we've gone through that with sustainability. I want a rescue squad here, not disappearing. As I stated earlier, there is $700,000 in debt of an organization that has no debt. Because remember, it's more than $300,000 that's being annually contributed or paid, or I don't want to get the legal terms. But there's capital equipment that this municipality provides.
The $300,000 is part of that, Mayor.
Okay.
It's $100,000 in direct expenditures. It's $105,000 in cash. It is also over $100,000 a year in direct expenditures that we expend for things, and then it's an additional probably about $100,000 in capital expenditures. So it is, all in all, it's over $300,000. It's definitely well over $300,000, but it's not that plus capital.
But the point I'm trying to get at is $700,000. Where did that go? You said there were multiple things, so I'm just trying to just make a point. This is not strictly just replacing the paid, with another paid entity. We are trying to bring back a true volunteer organization that will be sustainable going forward. So,
The other thing I'll just add to that is, again, it's certainly up to the individuals within the organization, but the very clear expectation, maybe not all, but certainly some, would continue on to provide that same service, just wearing a hat of RWJ instead of HEMS. That, what do you mean? The expectation, let me say that again so that everyone can hear. The expectation is that some of those people will be brought into the RWJ organization to provide the service that's being provided here today. So some of the issues around familiarity and that understanding, the clear expectation is that will happen. Now, look, there will be an interview process, there would be a selection, and there would have to be an acceptance of what happens. But I would certainly hope that some of those, especially the full-time people, would look at those opportunities.
Merrill Bisberg, 4 Hickory Hill Road. I just want to make a comment, first of all, that I know you want a full disclosure on our candidates, and it's in order to get the truth out, but you also mentioned that Harry's only been here twice, and that's not true. He may have only been here as a candidate twice, but candidates are citizens too. So I just want to make that really clear. So if we're going to, talk about how many times people have been here, let's be honest. Okay, I want to kind of go back a little bit to what the good lawyer said about kickbacks. I don't know if many of you were aware of this, and it is very pertinent to what I have to say. But in 2014, actually just a few months before the Fitch report came out, there was an article in the paper, Somerset Medical Center agrees to pay $435K to settle federal kickback. Somerset Medical Center agrees to pay $435K to settle a federal kickback case. So these things aren't just theoretical. This really happened with Somerset Medical Center before it was taken over by Robert Wood Johnson, before it was taken over by St. Barnabas. Just one quote from the article: the U.S. Attorney announced the hospital agreed to pay $435,000 to end a 5-year federal investigation into allegations that it had improperly billed Medicare and paid kickbacks to a cardiology practice to get more patient referrals. That practice was in Hillsborough. I would imagine that some of the people on the Township Committee saw that when it happened with this, and maybe other residents. And I know I was concerned because I'm a patient at Robert Wood Johnson, and I wanted to know that my doctor didn't participate in that. In the end, Somerset admitted to no wrongdoing. The hospital, like many others, also experienced declines in patient volume and cash flow, putting pressure on senior executives to find a buyer or merging partner. Now, it also put pressure on to find patients. And I think the fact that Fitch came along with this principal in Fitch, who was also head of emergency services at Robert Wood Johnson, is something to take note of. And as Harry said, they did disclose this when they did the Fitch report. But also what happened in that Fitch report, and this is really critical because I don't know how this could be missed. In the Fitch report itself, on the same pages where they do the disclosure, and obviously Fitch was concerned about it enough to do the disclosure, to make sure there was full disclosure. Right in there it says, in the conclusions, Robert Wood Johnson stands by their original proposal of requiring zero subsidy from the township, and that RWJUH would bill third-party payers and users of the services. They're saying the proposal was made already. That's what this says, and this is dated September 2014, which is only a few months after this kickback scheme surfaced. I really feel like the Township Committee had an obligation to walk away at that point. The proposal was done. This is not an open and fair process like everybody's been trying to portray. And I want to know why they didn't walk away and then made everything proceed as if it was a fair and open process. The proposal was already made.
Mayor, if I may? Sure. I believe, and I'm not positive, I can go back and look at the timing of this, but I believe, and Anthony, you may remember, when this process first started, it was still Somerset Medical Center, and I believe they were in negotiations at the time for Robert Wood Johnson to take over. So I think that statement was made with the clarification that they were offering the same thing as Somerset Medical Center had offered prior. So I think that was the understanding. I can go back and look at the timing, but I think
That
that's
doesn't
what
change anything, though. Either way, the offer
Well,
was still
it
made.
does when,
It would have been different if we accepted the proposal.
it wasn't from Robert Wood Johnson initially as my.
There were a number of different organizations that were looking at providing within the town, including through the SASA organization that's been referenced. But none of that was dealt with. There was nothing official, there was nothing formal, and there was nothing done until we actually put a formal response together.
Then when did they propose this to you, if it's already in the Fitch report? Are you saying there were no meetings to talk about this offer? They're saying here it was done. This is dated September 2014.
I don't know.
Well, okay. I think that's really critical. Okay, and just regarding, would you like me to leave you a copy? I mean,
No, thank you.
Here it is. It's right here. Where's our tip?
Thank you.
And here's the kickback case. And here's another article on the kickback case. And then just regarding
As far as kickback
something you
goes, though, it
mentioned
wasn't
right
even
before I
the
came
same.
up here, which was funding for this $700,000, which I'm not responding to because I didn't know anything about that until tonight. But I do know that Country Classics was asked to give a lot of money for either fire or rescue.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I forgot to mention
And I
that.
want to know
Yep.
if, I don't know if that money was ever used or if it stayed in escrow, but we've
reminded
had
me
a
of
lot of construction in this town, and haven't we gotten money from any other builders for everything that's going on here for our rescue squad?
Let me,
And shouldn't we think about that?
let me, you reminded me of that. This was another fact in a meeting that I had with David Gwynn on that. There was a contribution from Country Classics that was going to go towards a second building. During that,
A second rescue building? Or
a second building,
construction?
yes, a second rescue building on Hamilton Road, I believe. No, yeah, on Hamilton Road. Mr. Gwynn, in that meeting, had asked, because he knew what the meeting was for, it was for capital, asked if he could get about $100,000 of that for operational expenses. So and thank you for reminding me of that, because that was another area of concern as we were going through this process, because I recalled that conversation. So again, it's getting back to the sustainability issue.
But what happened to the other 900,000?
So some of it has been
No, no, no.
utilized. There was actually funding that was provided to put a deposit down on land for that second building, but the building has not yet been constructed. There's still escrow that is pending, so that those funds, some of it is still available, some of it has been utilized, but it hasn't gone away.
And that money is restricted towards...
For that purpose.
For that purpose
solely.
only.
Okay. So that was several years ago. Has there been any other funds put in escrow by other builders in town?
Not for rescue services.
They're not required to do that.
I understand.
These are voluntary contributions. Talking about kickbacks.
That'd be a kickback.
It would be
Kickback,
illegal
exactly.
for us to
don't
suggest
ask.
But we didn't.
such a thing to a builder.
But we did
No.
it for Country Classics.
No, Country Classics
didn't.
voluntarily came with that.
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe there are builders interested.
Let's stick to the RFP questions
Yes.
this evening.
Let's go to the RFP. And
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Don Diego, Gula Court, 12 Gula Court. I am a DC District 24, and I have to let you know that I've had over 60 people in my district call me this week, actually 10 days, the last 10 days, and they're outraged about what you're about to do. Frank, I know you a long time. Gloria, Doug, Carl, I don't know you as well, but I can't believe you can't let this be something that the township, the people here, vote on. Why do you guys have to do that? Don't take it upon yourself. Let the township vote on this. Why would you?
We take input we have to take input from the public, and that's why we're having this meeting, to understand what the thought process is. We've obviously heard from some people on both sides of this equation. Recognize tonight we have a, turnout, and I'm sure most of the people here are going to tell us why we should not move forward with this. But, one of the things, and it's one of the things that we sit up here to do, is to make certain decisions in the best interest of the township.
Let us make that.
But that's not how this works.
Well, no, it's a life, health, death issue. Let us make that. You should not make that for us. I'm serious. My dad was saved by...
I'm sure many people have. And again, it's not a...
Why are you laying yourself out there? There's so much potential for harm for all of us. Let
There
us
is,
vote on
and
it.
that's why we
Let us
went
vote
through
on
this process.
And we will.
That's true.
Hillsborough, one of the best places to live in America. I'd like it to continue.
And that's our intent.
Excuse me.
Hello, my name is Deborah Chores McNellen from Huntington Park in Hillsborough. I have a couple of questions for you. One is, why did you want to compare us to Montgomery Rescue Squad? Two, I didn't hear anything about logistics. Where are you going to place these 2 rigs, and exactly what kind of personnel are going to be in those 2 rigs? Second of all, I want to ask you, how often are there 3 to 4 calls within a 2-hour period in Hillsborough? Joe Schmo could be having a heart attack, Vinnie Boombat's over here can be in a car crash, and you don't have enough of people. I'm just being honest with you. I have been on the rescue squad since the 80s, okay? And please, have some respect for those people that get up at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So, let's go back to logistics, okay? Can I go back to logistics? Where will these 2 ambulances be stationed? And exactly who's paying for the fuel?
Within the township borders and
Okay, where?
Robert Wood Johnson.
No, it's actually Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas Healthcare System, so you need to put that in the record, okay? So where are they going to be stationed? I would like to know who's paying for the fuel. Is it our township paying for the fuel?
No.
As I said before, zero.
Zero.
I doubt that. Highly doubt
Well, you can
that.
doubt it all you like. That's
Right,
read the
but where are they going to
contract.
be stationed? You're not telling me. Are they going to have a station over here? I
so
know for a fact
logistically-
that there are vehicles at the Hillsborough Rescue Squad there.
So is your contention that there's 4 vehicles at all times available to respond to calls?
There's a lot of people that are volunteers here.
That's not my question, though.
Yeah.
That is simply not true, and I
Really?
wish you would be honest if you're a representative of the
I'm
rescue
not a
squad.
representative. I said I was back in the 80s. I am here as a citizen.
So from the logistics, I'm sure that will be a bit of something that will evolve over time. But there will be one on the east side of town and one on the west side of town.
Okay, what about the north and south?
The north and south will be covered as it is today.
Why did you compare us to, also, why did you compare the Hillsborough Rescue Squad with, why did you have to bring up Montgomery? What was so special about Montgomery that
here's
these
why.
people are not providing?
Here's why. Let me explain to you why.
Citizens.
Because as I started in my history before about where this became, we started with a volunteer organization, and we've essentially migrated to a pay organization. That's what's happened because of the fact that there is, a lack of volunteers that are available to run certain timeframes, and we have to have people on pay, on call with pay to be able to respond to calls. Montgomery, just adjacent to us, runs a fully volunteer organization, fully, and they have a surplus sitting in their cash reserves of north of $1 million. So I don't mean to indicate other than they've been able to provide that service on a fully volunteer basis. They fundraise, they recruit, they have people that are willing to serve, and ours has migrated to a pay. You can read into that what you like, but that's the reality of where we sit.
Okay, one last question. How many of you would like to volunteer? Thank you.
We do.
We do volunteer.
My name is Bill Iden. I own property in Hillsborough. I reside in Branchburg, but I am also a member of the fire department that responds to Hillsborough. I'm also another responder in a couple other county groups, all volunteer. Just as a side note, when we start, I won't argue with you if you don't argue with me, okay? First of all, what I'd like to say is we're speaking of the ambulance crew and the expenses of it. Are you aware that if you were to replace, at a minimum, your fire companies, it would cost you $12 to $15 million a year? That's cost. That's cost. Same thing with your ambulance squad. You can't run a volunteer group now. Everybody has two jobs, or the wife is working, so you have to stay home. I haven't made fire calls because my 94-year-old mother-in-law has moved into my house, so I'm the primary babysitter. All that aside, I'm not here to complain about expenses. I'm here to reflect upon values. As I stated before, I am a member of a volunteer fire company. Almost 7 years ago, there was a call, and there was a call at 840 Amwell Road. That's out at Clover Hill. That was a response. We were the primary responders. I was the chief at that time. This was on a Tuesday night, June 1st. At approximately 5 minutes to 9, a call came in about a structure fire at 840 Amwell Road. So I made sure that my personnel were responding. I responded in the chief's car. I got out there, and fortunately, Eric DeSico pulled in right behind me. Eric suited up, went downstairs to see where the electrical panel fire was. After a couple minutes, I went up to the front steps because I hadn't heard from Eric. When I got up to the front steps, something wasn't just right. So I said, oh, expletive deleted, I better get off of these steps, these concrete steps. Next thing I know, I wake up in an ambulance. My shirt's cut open. I've got all these tubes in my arms. I recognize a couple of the first aiders. I said, what the hell's going on? What's going on? You had a heart attack. What do you mean I had a heart attack? I couldn't have had a heart attack. I said, yes, your heart stopped for 6 minutes. Cost, expense, I don't care. I don't care what it is. My life is more valuable than $300,000 a year to me. I would not be alive today if it hadn't been for Eric DeSico getting on the radio 3 times trying to get in contact with me. He came up and he was swearing until he saw the lump on the ground. He has been with the first aid, with the rescue squad. He knew CPR and rescue breathing. So he started. Another fire truck comes along. It had, please, I apologize to whoever it was. There were 3 primary guys, Ryan Buckley and Jack Mazzellin. They all started in on me. The rescue squad got there, and the first thing that they do was pulled an AED. You know the thing that you go like that and you jump a little bit? Well, they had to do it twice. This is not good for Bill. This is not good for Bill. Fortunately, because of their efforts of the fire companies initially and the rescue squad, I'm here today. The rescue squad was dispatched along with the first fire companies. Something I doubt would ever happen with the Robert Wood Johnson, whatever. They couldn't have kept me alive long enough to get me into one of their ambulances. I've researched this a little bit, not with Google, but with other reputable sources. I'm here because of the rescue squad. The last time I was here, except for accompanying somebody for a traffic ticket, last time I was here, I was up here with you, Councilman Del Coro, and you, Councilman McCauley. I don't remember any of the other faces, but I was standing right up here giving commendations to those three individuals and personal thanks to, I would say, 80 or 120 other people who were involved with this. They took me to one of the local hospitals that I wouldn't send my dog to, and the emergency room doctor says, well, we have to get you admitted and so on and so forth. No, get me out of here. Get me out of here. Take me up to Morristown. That's my hospital. He says, no, we can't do that. That's only for very sick people. I said, doctor, I just got shocked twice. The rescue squad's the only reason why I'm here. He says, well, that's only for sick people. Well, fortunately, one of my fellow firefighters and his wife called my wife. She picks up the phone, calls my cardiologist's office. Doctor comes back in and says, the helicopter will be here in 4 minutes. Costs? Well, that transportation cost my insurance company, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think it was $14,600. And you're complaining about whatever this is per citizen? This is a human thing. It's even more human than the fire company, the fire response. I was just sitting on a meeting where we were speaking about how certain things should happen at a particular type of accident. One of the first things I put up with, I brought out, and another person did, was when you go to this, you have to keep the patient informed. You have to calm them down. You don't calm them down, you're not going to be able to provide any service, and the service that you're providing is going to make their situation worse. So, your $300,000? Pennies. The other costs that you're speaking of, how about we go fully pro? What's that going to cost you for your rescue services so that they go out and do the rehab for the fire companies, so they go out on initial dispatch with the fire companies, so that they have more available than one on the east side and one on the west side? You know how far it is from Clover Hill over to the river? I don't think any ambulance has wings here. I think this is a no-brainer. As for the comment before me as to why not let the voters do it, if the voters have the right to vote for the fire commissioners, why don't they have the right to select the rescue services that they want? So I see I'm putting a couple people to sleep. Thank you for not arguing, but people back here and over here, you all have a vote as to these people too. So let them have the vote, let them have the right. I'm not a politician, but I know there's enough ways to wiggle around stuff so that you could let them vote. And you let them vote, and you're taking yourself off of the chopping block. Thank you all. Thank you for your time.
My name is Frederick McKilliard. I'm the chief of Somerville First Aid and Rescue Squad. And I'm coming here tonight because you guys are talking about some facts about rehab.
No, we're talking about rehab.
My name is Frederick McKilliard. I'm the chief of Somerville First Aid and Rescue Squad. We do have Robert Wood covers Raritan during the day. Somerville covers it at night. We, as Somerville, work very well with Hillsborough EMS. And I will tell you, that they put in, you want facts, they put in their RFP that they will do rehab. They don't do rehab. I've been out to multiple of their areas, Raritan, Manville, Franklin, Somerset. They do not provide rehab. You can call County Communications and get the recording when we were in Bridgewater and them stating that they don't do rehab. So that's something for you guys to consider. Something for you guys to truly consider.
Look, I can only speak to what is in front of us, what we have put in the RFP and what the response was. I don't know if that was contracted with those other towns or not, but what I can
tell you
unequivocally assure you is that in our contract, in the RFP response, what was clearly stated is that they would provide rehabilitation service, because that issue came up from a couple of the firehouses. We wanted to make sure that everyone, the firehouses, would be comfortable if this change was made, and that was the one concern that was raised. So we went back to validate it, confirmed it with, as part of their response, would this service be provided. So I can't speak to the others. All I can tell you is it's been committed to in the RFP that has been responded to.
I can tell you,
us.
as for the SASA contract for Raritan, that's what they're supposed to be doing, and they do not do it.
We don't have the SASA contract, and
But I'm
honestly,
just
if
letting you know that's
Raritan,
not part of the
if
contract. They
Raritan
don't
wasn't,
comply to it.
but if they weren't complying, then
Your
they should bring that
residents
up
in the fire department
with
will
them.
suffer, unfortunately.
We would.
Good evening. Hi. My name is Casey Buck. I live over on Valley Road. I am a former HEMS Corps employee, a former HEMS Corps volunteer. I also used to work for Monarch, who provided EMS services for Barnabas Healthcare in the northern and southern half of New Jersey. I also currently dispatch for a 911 center in another county in this state. As you can tell, I also am an associate member of 37 Fire, a volunteer company in this town. I am very well versed in the past 10 years in working in public safety and service. As a private citizen, this deeply, deeply concerns me. I've been on multiple calls. I've seen some of these faces, both as patients, as a firefighter, and as their neighbor. I see many members here, both who were previous volunteers, and I also, as a note to Freddie, I also did volunteer for Somerville Rescue for a short period of time prior to moving into Hillsborough. Robert Wood, prior to taking over Somerset, used to have, their own kind of thing. Somerset Medical covered many areas as their daytime coverage, Manville, Raritan. For a short period of time, Somerville covered Raritan during the day, as Freddie said. They now cover it just at night. There are a lot of issues here by using large systems. I can tell you, when Monarch they currently now again have the contract for Irvington and East Orange at this time, both areas that were covered by St. Barnabas hospitals. I can tell you that as far as services to be offered in the sense of community outreach for football games, whatever you may have going on in town, their hands were tied because they could not do it because of the stipulation, going back to what the lawyer had said at the beginning of the floor being open, that it's a service they're not really allowed to provide. Local departments that volunteered, East Orange, First Aid, things of that nature, they did cover that. So I understand, from the cost perspective, I'm kind of a little all over the place, but I understand we're under, time constraints. I understand that while they are putting in a zero bid for no cost to this town, previous experience both as an employee and both from what I've seen outside working at other agencies after leaving that employer, that a zero bid will get you ambulances that are already broken down, that the fleet maintenance is not adequate. Hillsborough is a 55 square mile town. Our neighboring towns are anywhere between 1 mile, 2 square miles, things like that. Manville, I believe, is 2 square miles. Also, again, covered by Robert Wood. So from a dispatch perspective, somebody's having an emergency. You call 911. In that first 3 minutes, somebody's getting your providers, ALS, BLS, fire, police, whomever you may need. So there's that. So now you're already 5 minutes, let's say, into your emergency, your loved one's emergency, whomever. Now, okay, so Hillsborough Robert Wood Johnson proposed that they're going to have 2 rigs in town, stationed in town, is my understanding, according to the proposal. Now, that being said, from one end of town to the other, from, let's say, the Trestle Bridge over by 206 by Laura's Gas, down to BELLE by the old train station down there, on a good day with no traffic, and I'm going to place that at like 3 a.m. in the morning when I've done it, it's roughly a 15-minute ride from end to end. Now you throw in your day-to-day traffic, cars nowadays, everybody's all ooh-ah about the stereo system in their car. They're designed to be soundproof. I don't know if you've realized, all of a sudden, there's a cop, there's an ambulance, there's a fire truck right behind you. You don't hear that. So now that distance from one end of town to the other has now increased roughly about to anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. EMS personnel are taught that while you're responding with lights and sirens, that you need to use due caution and due regard while going through any intersection in town. How often do we see that happen on any level, that sometimes they're going to an emergency call? Now, because, let's say, Robert Wood is on the turnaround coming back from a hospital after taking a patient, and that ambulance that's supposed to be stationed in town is now coming up South Bridge Street up onto 206. So now you add another 10 minutes to that call, to them being on location, providing patient care and contact. So now, let's say we're 15, 20 minutes deep. I understand that they're stating that they're going to make the effort to be there within 10 minutes and 59 seconds. I'm telling you, from multiple standpoints in this system and the size of this town, it is not a feasible reality.
So, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You seem to really understand. How does that differ from the circumstances today? So, and let me preface that question, because there are only 2 crews at any given time during the day, right?
During daytime hours between 6 a.m. and midnight.
So how does that differ?
That differs because they are solely dedicated units. I read over a proposal that Robert Wood said that they were going to have 2 units stationed in town.
And they are dedicated Hillsborough units.
Will those units be staffed in town 24/7
Yes.
the way we have them? They're going to guarantee that they're going to have 2 Robert Wood ambulances stationed in either Station 1 or Station 2 in town at all times?
Correct, 24/7.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you're aware that the way Hillsborough works is that between the hours of 6 p.m. and midnight is what we call volunteer time. So there are 7 days a week. There is still a very large volunteer component to Hillsborough EMS on a whole. I understand it's a 2-tier level. So to discern, and I understand you want to bring volunteerism back, realistically in 2017, it's not really kind of there anymore. But at the same time, many of those employees per diem, that was our time to be there to, that our community outreach. People have said, and I'm sure you guys are aware with social media, oh, I've seen the Hillsborough Rescue Squad sitting over at, this restaurant, or they're having dinner over here. Well, guess what? I can tell you, every time I've gone out to dinner wearing one of those uniforms, I've been a representative not only of Hillsborough Township, because that's what we do, we provide a service to this town. We also, as a representative of Hillsborough EMS, that's our time to reach out to the communities when you see us out there. People get afraid to approach us just as they get afraid to approach any other professional service public safety organization. I understand that they're going to have these ambulances fully staffed 24/7. Now, I've been on calls where, okay, as of right now, Hillsborough's requirement is that there's a motor vehicle accident. We send both ambulances to that call. There is nothing stated in that procedure, which I have to admit, Robert Wood wrote a very nice 45-page sales brochure to you guys. I can tell you, again, being where I've been and doing what I do, it's not there. I have other friends who work locally for Somerset County Communications, and they are deeply, deeply worried because as it stands right now, when Somerset County used to dispatch out Robert Wood's ambulances, they had a good idea of where all the trucks were at all the times, and things ran smoothly. Now, with Med Central in place, they don't have the same advantage anymore. So while that ambulance is supposed to be stationed in Hillsborough, it happens. If they're busy and they have a BLS transport, they very well could be pulled. And don't let them tell you otherwise, because they are lying through their teeth. Monarch used to do it, and I can guarantee you, if you called up any of those gentlemen that work at Monarch, they will tell you that is what they do. They supplement their trucks using their 911 services, and vice versa. You will have your transport trucks come into town providing BLS services. That's well and good. What happens when there is a major event, and now the coverage that's supposed to cover Hillsborough is tied to that event? Now you call in Manville because they're supposed to be second due. Now you've dispatched Manville Rescue Squad, which is their volunteer organization, and now you've also used Robert Wood's resources for that town. So now you have, let's say, 6 ambulances. Where are we now? So now we start pulling more and more resources. Resource allocation is huge. And, you know, as a provider in public safety, Incident Command tells you, if you're going to have that many resources, you better be able to pull for them. And I can tell you, working for another county where this does happen because there isn't enough of a paid provider, it is so beyond detrimental. So beyond detrimental, it's absurd. And I will tell you, we've had calls for patients who've been, out for an example, thrown from a horse out on a farm on Hockenberry. Okay, so the time now for 30 minutes for Hillsborough in town was like a good solid 15, 20-minute ETA for patient contact. So if I'm coming from Somerville, now that's 45 minutes. The golden hour is tremendous in trauma. So now I have to fly that patient. Now I'm also incurring that party an extra bill, because now we have to pull additional resources to make sure that they get to definitive care. How does the town propose on fixing that portion? Even though, again, I understand they're writing you a proposal and they're saying, yeah, we're going to make every effort to accommodate exactly what you're asking. How are you going to get them to guarantee this at all times?
How do we guarantee it today?
With
all due respect, how do we guarantee it today?
They have the people
No,
stationed.
they
people
don't. We
staffed.
have 2 at any time.
We have 2 ambulances, and then
Hold on, with all due, let me, we have 2 on at any given time.
Yes,
And I'm not
we're-
trying to, please, I recognize the work that everyone puts in, and we have people that will get there and respond, but we have 2 at any given time.
2 ambulances, yes.
If both gets dispatched to an event, does that not limit the coverage we have in town?
Typical procedure would then be, okay, county, I need you to set out a general tone for additional manpower.
So why would the other circumstance be different?
Because Robert Wood
Hold on.
Robert Wood has definitive resources. You start pulling from Manville, so okay, so now you get some of those additional resources.
Do we have unlimited resources here?
Not
Aren't they
entirely.
definitive?
Yeah, of course, everything's definitive to an extent.
So I'm just trying to understand reasonably.
Because
where is...
We are able to, in one fell swoop, in a matter of minutes, say, that, okay, I hear possible entrapment, I hear X, Y, and Z. They can automatically just turn around and say, county, you know what, get me a general, and I need for additional manpower to the station, so that way we have people already. Then those 2 ambulances are out on that call. When they get there, they can assess and say, no, we don't need these extra resources. But with Robert Wood, the way that they run stuff, I can tell you from experience and from what I've seen just across the board, it's one of those things that, okay, well, we'll send you this unit. We'll send you that one. Okay, well, they're returning, maybe if they're the closest we can get them over here for your help. The other thing I do want to ask is, it's been brought up about putting this to a public referendum. And that's point 1. Why has that not been considered? And for the second part of that is, there are other models in neighboring areas. I'm going to use West Windsor as an example, where their EMS department is run under the umbrella of the police department. Was that ever considered? Was that something that was brought to your attention that's feasible to do, or merging it with fire or some other form, so that way we don't have to outsource to what has now become Barnabas, Robert Wood, King Capital?
But we do have that entity now.
There were other alternatives. They were all identified in Fitch. But
did the town, I understand that, because I've seen that, I'm sorry not to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
I have seen the Fitch report. Was that brought, you know, out to you guys to say, hey, would you be willing, if we do X, Y, and Z, to do that? To merge, say, HEMS, and make it a municipal entity? Was that even considered?
It was considered, but it's probably the least viable of the alternatives.
And why is that least
Because
viable?
because it creates significant liability, cost, and oversight that would have to go in that the municipal government simply does not have the resources to do.
And merging it with the fire department or something?
Well, the fire department, there was the opportunity to do that a number of years ago, and that's why we have a fire district that has a fire tax, and there was a thought that it would all be under one, where rescue would be under that as well. And I don't remember the exact circumstances, but essentially, rescue kind of went their own way, or stayed the way they were, instead of going under the fire district.
That wasn't reconsidered again, I'm assuming?
Well, it'd have to be.
That would have to be an
a fire
agreement between...
district issue.
No, I mean, that would, like, something similar for EMS. Like, I know down south they do it, it's a tax that you pay for in addition.
It would only be under fire, because I don't think the state legislature ever set up a EMS-type district similar to fire. They typically would be under that one
It is kind of
entity.
strange that the legislation...
I know the NJAC, not to completely butt in, I know the NJAC, the administrative code, the 1987 stipulation in there about emergency services and how it's to be provided, and the difference between, volunteer organizations versus a private entity, whether it's being serviced by a hospital or like 501c3, the way HEMS is done. I do know that, it's written, it is there, but was that ever considered as a viable option?
To bring them under the fire?
No, to bring them as their own separate, the way we do with the fire district, whether make it like the EMS district.
They are their own entity right now. They're not under our
for
jurisdiction.
HEMS, but the way we support through our taxes, was that ever considered? So that way the township had more control over the money and the cost and allocation of
I
resources?
know of no statutory authority that allow that. They do have that. There's a specific statute in Title 40 that does provide for fire and setting up districts, and they have their own special tax, and they're funded. There's nothing in the statute, there's nothing specific. You would think there would be, but there is nothing in the statute regarding that for EMS services. But I got one question, because you're very well-spoken, you seem to be very knowledgeable. Are you a Hillsborough resident?
I am. I live over on Valley Road.
Let me ask you something. Being somebody who's very knowledgeable in this area, being a Hillsborough resident, why shouldn't you have the right to formulate your own paid-for service, and under the local public contracts law, have the right to bid to provide that service to the township? Why does it only have to be this group that can provide it? Why aren't you allowed to do that? And why shouldn't you be allowed to do that under the local public contracts law?
Wouldn't that be something to maybe open up to the township?
Well, that's what we did. We issued RFPs. But that's what the whole purpose is of the local public contracts law. So somebody like you, if you wanted to, you could decide, I'm going to formulate my own squad. I'm going to have my own paid-for service. And you know what? Under the local public contracts law, the municipality has to go out to bid. We'll definitely go out to bid. If they do award this, we'll have to go out to bid again after this service. And you would be allowed to bid on that. Why should you be precluded? Why is it only this organization that can do that when it's a paid-for service?
Well, part of that is as the way I see it, is that Hillsborough, HEMS Corps itself, in addition to Hillsborough, I mean, yes, they are two separate entities, but they do very much rely on one another. It's kind of like having a three-legged chair. Take one leg away, you kind of get a little wonky. In that aspect of the way the bid was written and the way I read it as a layperson, I mean, most of my understanding and my research is strictly, just nonstop hours on Google, on LexisNexis, looking at town codes and doing it that way. I can tell, I understand the point that you're trying to make with saying, why can't I say I'm going to offer EMS services?
Or for that matter, anybody who's experienced in this area,
why
shouldn't they be allowed to say, you know what?
My understanding
I want to operate it.
Is that the way the bid was written was done in such a way for certain aspects to be so narrow and make it so difficult that to even offer and say, hey, if we do want to put this bid in, how are you going to help us so that way we can put this bid in and still maintain footing? And I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
I wish we could have, if that was the understanding, and I wish we would have had that conversation.
And just so you know.
But we didn't.
It's not. There's been a misconception in particular. They're referring to 2.1 cooperation with the township, and they're indicating that you have to have a PSAP, staffed emergency medical dispatchers. That's not true. It doesn't say that. All it does is say that Somerset County will have the ability to transfer a call if you have such a system. It doesn't say you have to have it. And the current squad could have simply responded with respect to that requirement that we already have communications. We haven't established over decades of effective communications. It's not an issue. That would not have been, there would have been no problem there. For some reason, somebody read that and said, oh no, we have to have this PSAP dispatchers. It's not true. It doesn't say that.
Why was that not made more clear?
As a
layperson to the public, I mean, why was that
I'll just read it to you, and you can, because you seem to be, again, I think you're very well spoken, you seem to be very intelligent. It says, all calls requesting emergency medical services within the township will be received by Somerset County Emergency Service Communication Center.
Which is today.
Which is what we do now.
Which is today, right.
And it says, who will have the ability to transfer the call to a fully functional public safety answering point staffed by certified emergency medical dispatchers. It doesn't say you have to have that PSAP, it's just outlining
that you have to have the ability to accept the transfer.
It's just saying that it's set up that if you do have such a system, if you do have a PSAP.
See, now understand the way that was just read out loud, and the way, as I've heard it and the way I've come to understand it, is that they need to have the ability to accept the transfer. And in that sense, because you have to have a public safety answering point that has to be staffed by EMD. Now, at one point in time, I'm almost positive Hillsborough Police Department had that capability. I'm not sure if it was to the extent of being a true public safety answering point, as in terms of the law, the letter of the law and stuff with oaths and whatnot, but they had, or whether or not their dispatchers were EMD certified. But so something like that, in that regard, and that is how that's been read, and I think that's where the continuity error is.
Yeah, but I don't want to belabor the issue of why there was, because we don't know the rationale for so we're kind of speaking hypothetically, but I certainly recognize your point about where, some of the issues that may have arisen, but I don't know specifically why there was not an answer to that.
Okay, and then the other thing I brought up was, again, I think now I'm probably going to be the third or fourth person, was it considered to just put this out to the public with the same information, give us some time to chew the meat and say, that way, if we do turn around and say, you know what, in lay terms, give us the time to look up the information. Like I said, I mean, I dispatch and, I have the ability sometimes to be able to sit there and say, oh, wait a second, I asked this person, I have the time, I have that luxury on occasion, Why is that not being afforded to the public over, the course of a month or something like that to sit there and chew through this information? Because it's thick, it's really thick information.
But it was, though. I mean, we posted it about a month ago.
But why was it not considered to bring it to let the public vote on it? Why is it just?
I'll be honest, I'm not even sure there's a viable alternative to be able to do that on a contract.
Okay.
Public has to be educated.
My name is John Bedjaller. I live at 62 Peterson Road. On Friday, unfortunately, my mother fell and she broke her hip.
Oh, she's okay.
And within 5 minutes, the Hillsborough Rescue Squad was there to help her. This was after her making 3 phone calls to me, having left my cell phone on my desk while I was in a meeting. And then she reluctantly called 911. Thankfully, she did. But they were wonderful, and they really did help her, and they got her to Somerset Medical Center, and she's doing really well. She's over here at Foothill Acres, recuperating already.
Glad to hear that.
So, that was one ambulance. And I understand there's going to be two. But what probably the public doesn't know, and what's not in the contract, is that during one of the major snowstorms that we had, our rescue squad was staffed by 5 crews. They were there in case anybody needed them away from their families so that they could be there for us. I doubt Robert Wood would do that for us. And it's not in the contract. I know that. Secondly, this isn't broken. You keep mentioning the $700,000. Is the township on the hook for that?
No.
No.
But
is it of your concern?
Yes.
Of course it is.
Why?
Because there's a sustainability issue. I want to make sure there's a viable organization, that it's not going to just...
So do you know it's not viable because they have that debt?
I have a Fitch report that talks about deficiencies that were never addressed. This
A report that should not have been made public knowledge because
No,
that
no,
is a
no.
501c3 organization. That's private information that you guys made public.
No.
You know that, right?
No.
That should not have been made public.
Fitch made an assessment.
Yes, and they
Of
were not
what
to
our
disclose that to the public, and you guys put it on your website.
Because your organization
John, you'd have been the
actually
first one
requested, John, you were the first one that asked
that-
for it. So please, your organization was pressing for the...
The Fitch
for that
report can
effort.
state certain things, but it's
It's
not
a
supposed to
public, it's
disclose
a
all the
public
501c3
record.
information.
Do you understand the Open Public Records
But
Act?
that, as you
Do
said,
you
is a
understand the
private
public open?
business
When
entity.
someone requests it, it is a public record.
Okay, well, let me just say this.
Okay.
If that organization needs our financial help because it's in trouble, that's all it has to do is put the word out to this community. I put the word out to this community to be on a street corner yesterday to fight for this organization, and we had people come out for us. That's all they have to do is ask.
They do.
Okay. Well, we didn't know that they were in any sort of trouble, and I don't believe they're in any sort of
I have
trouble.
an auditor's report right now. Do you want it?
No, I don't
Where
want
you
it.
can request the
I don't want it.
Oprah.
Because just
An Oprah
because it
request.
says they have debt, everybody carries debt.
Yes, but he never answered the question.
He doesn't have to.
Why not?
Because he's a separate entity.
You're
He
right.
doesn't-
And we
he doesn't-
do, no.
Are you on their board of directors?
And that might be a good suggestion.
But you're not. So
That's
he
a good
does
one.
not have to give you those answers.
So then-
Legally, he's not
No,
obligated.
and we don't have to legally support him financially, but we do because it was the right thing
You
to
don't?
do.
I heard from your attorney there that
we
we do
do.
have to provide them certain...
No, we don't.
have to.
We don't have to provide them
to.
anything?
Of course Nothing. not.
No.
We don't?
No.
No, but they
So we're
were-
limited, though.
Hold on.
Yes, you're limited.
And that's the
You're
whole
capped.
point. If this
for
township
God's
ever
sakes.
point in time, at any point in time, if they just said, you know what, we're not giving you the $100,000 contribution, what they're trying to tell you is that agency would fold. They wouldn't be able to meet their obligations. They'd fold because they're not financially sustainable.
So do it.
Because they went out.
So do it.
No,
And then you'll see this org- you'll see this community
You want-
come together and pull for them. Because you know why? They're there for us, and we will be there for
Because
them.
that's irresponsible. That is the most irresponsible
not.
comment.
No, what's
To-
irresponsible is what you people are doing because you're putting our lives at stake here.
No, we're not. You just
I
suggested.
disagree.
You
During
just
the
said to pull the
snowstorm,
plug.
and there are five
sa-
staff
Did
cars
you not
on
say to
call.
pull the plug?
That's there for us.
Did you say to pull the plug?
Yeah, pull the plug.
God, everyone, you don't think that's putting our lives at risk? He just asked me to pull
Why?
the
You're
plug.
ready to go to Robert Wood Johnson. What's the difference? If they go under, Robert Wood steps in and we're all saved, right?
John,
Right?
with all due respect.
And let me ask you this
John,
question.
so-
After your contract of 5 years is up, how much is Robert Wood going to charge you? Do you know? Or Barnabas or whatever they're called now.
We go back out for RFP again,
Right.
my friend.
Now to the next question. They're saying that they're going to have other ambulances stationed around that'll come to our rescue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do these other townships have the same sort of agreement? You're saying that 2 ambulances are always going to be here?
Yes.
Suppose they're promising the other townships that surround us, oh, we'll pull them in from somewhere else, from Hillsborough if we need to. Do you
Sure.
know that they don't have that in their contract?
They're adding resources.
Adding resources.
Yes. They have already said, and Ms. Ferrara can say that, they're looking to hire, 16 EMTs.
So, look.
Looking to hire, but they don't have them, right?
John,
and
you-
to say that our EMTs are going to go over to Robert Wood is wrong, because you don't know that.
You don't know that either.
Right, but you don't know that. You're saying they're going to pull
No,
our
no,
EMTs.
that's not what I
They're
said. I
not
said they would be
necessarily.
given the opportunity to. I didn't say they
They
would.
can go work wherever they
It's going to be
want to,
obviously
though.
their decision.
Yes,
They
they
can work
can.
wherever they want.
Of course they can, but
Right,
they'll
so
be given
don't
the opportunity.
say that they're going to be given the opportunity, because you don't know that for
They're
certain.
going to be given the opportunity to apply for one of those 16 positions.
At
What?
the end of the day,
I'm not
what
sure
we
we're
have
doing.
here is, if you think that the funding that we provide is not necessary, you are
I
incorrect.
didn't say it's not necessary.
You just
didn't
said
say
to pull
that.
the plug.
You just did.
No, I said, if you want to
said-
save the buck,
I didn't.
pull the
No.
plug on it.
No, 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 no,
What
no,
this is
no.
going to come down to
You-
is pennies per capita,
No,
right?
no. It's not pennies per...
Really?
No. What we're
That's your
trying- no, no,
terminology,
no, no,
per
no.
capita,
No,
all the time.
We're trying to explain.
What?
We're trying to explain.
Go ahead.
There is a sustainability, viability issue here. Now, the one question, and it's been very good, is that, do remember that all we have in front of us, and it's a shame, we only have one RFP to consider. A good question is, why didn't the existing service provider...
Because of the misconception of what was stated in that
There's no
RFP.
misconception. They have an attorney sitting right next to them, and I'm sure she would arrive at the same conclusion and could have provided them guidance if they had a question.
I can't answer that.
Exactly, and I
don't
can't
know that.
either. He
They can
refuses
still
to answer
provide
any
an
questions.
RFP regardless.
still?
No, they
Not
could've.
now, but at the time, they could have still submitted an RFP, whether it met every single
So-
requirement as well.
And it's up to us to evaluate it.
Right.
Yes.
You're lucky. You got through all my questions.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, let's take a breath. Elaine Welch, Orchard Drive. I'm here, I'm not running for any committee position. I have no affiliation with anybody on the squad or HIMCO. Didn't even know the name HIMCO before this tonight. But I stand here, and I'm able to stand here because my life has been saved twice by the rescue squad here in Hillsborough. I literally was bleeding out in my house on 2 separate occasions within a 1-week period, and the Hillsborough Rescue Squad was here and saved my life. Thank you very much, everyone who's here. I have 2 points, and I'm just off the cuff here, so please forgive me. We're talking about $300,000. I'm talking about that as if it's going to be a savings of $300,000. It's not. It will be a cost shift of some of that money onto the fire department. So we're still going to be spending some of that money with the fire department to cover some of the services that Robert Wood is not going to cover. The other place where the cost shift is going to go is onto the individual who needs to be rescued. Because the cost from Robert Wood is going to be a whole lot more than what we're paying now to the individual.
That's not true.
My house, I believe it will be. They have to be viable with their money.
It's the same billing agencies that are, and the same insurance providers and the same Medicaid or Medicare billing that is being collected from.
Well, I hope that's true, but I don't believe that it will be. And I can tell you that at my house, where I was rescued, I now live in another location here in Hillsborough, and in the last 5 years, Rescue Squad has been to my house at least 5 times, 2 times from me, 2 times from my mother. And just a shout out to those who were with the sharing organization earlier. I'm an organ transplant recipient, and I'm alive here today because someone donated their liver from their loved one.
That's wonderful.
And I believe that my cost, when I do need an ambulance again, will be substantially more than what I have had to pay already if it goes to Robert Wood. Whether that will be seen in time to come, possibly. My other point that I'd like to make is, it seems like since January, this process has sped up without a lot of time for input from everybody. It was not advertised, this meeting tonight, in the weekly newsletter, I believe. And I believe we've had enough discussion here tonight to say that there are a lot of questions still to be answered. It feels to me like this is being jammed down our throats tonight. It feels to me like there's decisions that have already been made, and I ask, why am I even here? Because I believe my opinion doesn't even matter at this point. I believe the decisions have already been made. and I believe that's wrong for this township. I believe we need to have HEMCO have an opportunity to review this again. For gosh sake, these are our citizens here in Hillsborough. They're our people. They're us. And if there was a misunderstanding on the RFP by HEMCO, why do we have to make this decision right here and now and not give our people a chance to respond now that we know there's been a misunderstanding? I ask that we postpone this for now and give that opportunity, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Sabita Singh, 6 Piney Woods Drive. I also am not part of HEMS or running for the Township Committee. I actually recently just moved to Hillsborough, but I did see some people out on the corners putting up the signs to save the HEMS team. And in the first instincts, because I saw that, I felt that there was a personal attachment for people with HEMS, which led me to believe that this organization has helped people in very positive ways. So my husband works at a 2:30 shift. He's very upset with me that I'm here. He's right there in the yellow sweatshirt. And I told him that I have personally been impacted by this decision in my life. My father passed away because of a decision that is about to be made tonight if we don't get what we have been asked for. I also noticed, as I've been sitting here for these hours with you guys, and I really appreciate the background that led up to some of these conversations, is that there's nobody on the public side that I see that represents anybody that feels anything positive towards what has been explained from the Township Committee side. Sitting there when I heard Frank Delacour speak about the background, I was baffled to why did I waste my time here. But then, when I heard everybody come up front, I said, how could I have even thought that those people that were spending their weekends away from their family were wasting their time? They could be Hillsborough, they could be HEMS, but to me, my life is very important. My family's life is important. And if they have nothing negative going from the public that they've been servicing, then why make this decision? If Hillsborough town themselves are saying that these people are so great, then why remove something that's going well, even if it's added cost? Is there price on life? There isn't. And the other thing that I want to say, and I may be wrong, today is my first day in any committee meeting in my whole life. I have never came to a township committee because I'm like, they'll figure it out. But this life thing, I don't want anybody to hold this, against me. And I was willing to listen to both sides. But what I didn't, I also hate RWJ. I had my baby there, or almost had my baby there, and I shifted to St. Peter's because their service is not to the par that I would want. And so their ambulance service is coming to service us. I'm afraid for my life that I'll end up in the hospital. Does that mean that I don't go to RWJ? Or will I be able to go to St. Peter's because they have more availability? Or am I going to come in with what they decided as what their benefit would be for the cost that they're giving us, which is free? Is our free their benefit for, they want to do my baby for $30,000 or $70,000, but I'm going to be waiting for somebody to help me out because we have so much people here. We really should see what the intent of RWJ was to provide the free service, and is it going to work with the population that we have here? I see some strong concerns from the citizen, and as the members on the committee that will speak on the benefit of us to make sure that we are going to be safe, I really do, and I would request that you really take the full analysis, not what negative things that HEMS might provide, but what negative things that we might have from Robert Wood Johnson. I see a lot of impacts that I didn't hear in the initial discussion that started this process. Why wasn't that mentioned on both sides. What are the positives for HEMS? What are the negatives? And what are the positives for RWJ? And what are the negatives for them? I only heard positive. It can't be that they're 100% gung-ho about everything that they're going to say. So I, as a Hillsborough town, not with HEMS, not with Robert Wood Johnson, but I'd like to see a full impact analysis of what this decision will mean. I have heard them, but have we considered them? Is it really like, so I know it's a very tough position to be here. I really thank you guys that you guys are doing this, and you know, the decisions are in your hands, but, you know, I just wanted to thank you. This is a great job that you're doing, and I hope that you'll consider the community that you're servicing, their opinions as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lloyd Haas, Titus Court. My son is an EMT, or what was. He's not that right now. I've lived in town since 1976, and I've seen the town grow. I've seen the rescue squad, the EMTs grow. I've seen this over time. And they've always been able to service our community, and they've been able to do it well. And I don't understand why we need to have a change. Also, you mentioned about the paid squad. Who's the mayor when they first had a paid squad? Who was the one who proposed that? Do you know? I do.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I do. I think it was the person that this building's named after. So, I just, as a thought. All right? But, you know, I just don't understand why there needs to be a change. I've seen the town grow. I've come to meetings, probably before any of you lived in town, or before some of you were born, probably.
You know that's not true, come on.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. I was coming to meetings in the 70s. You weren't here. You weren't around in the 70s.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, good enough.
I was here before Reagan was born. Okay?
Anyway,
Before Reagan was president.
I'm not planning to use all my 7 minutes, and I'm pretty much done. That's all I needed to say.
Thank you.
I'm Tuyann Lay for Ivy Lane, and as a former Board of Ed member, I sympathize with the responsibilities and decisions that you have to make tonight. So, and many people have already asked, but I'm going to make a very specific ask, that you pull the resolution from tonight, because you've listened to a lot of people talk about their concerns. You've listened to EMS professionals, and also because your decision affects the social fabric of our community. And I think about how we should treat our first responders, and it's not the way we should do it. So I ask that you pull the resolution. And I say it very sincerely, because it's tough to be up there. Everyone, you really should give them a little bit of break here. It's a tough night. It's tough. What?
We don't want to hear that.
They didn't want to hear that.
You broke the microphone.
No. They asked for respect, and they got a lot of information from all of us. So we're just asking that if you could postpone your decision, let more people understand what's at stake, and I think they'll appreciate that. So, nice ask. And just a point of information, that if they do make this decision, there are more than 40 people in this room, and if each one of you got 100 signatures, you would have enough to put the question on the ballot in November. And this is just democracy. This is just what you do when you care about your community. So I really would appreciate if you could, delay the vote.
Thank you.
Merrill Bisberg, Hickory Hill Road. I know I was up here before, but there are a couple comments that came up, and following on what Tuyann said and the woman before her. Do we have a performance bond on this contract? I know that they're committing to response times, but we know the response times our current rescue squad has. If they don't meet those response times, what are we going to do? We're not paying anything for the service. What's our recourse? If we end the contract, then we won't have a rescue squad left to put in place. I mean, it's really important. So I think the least we could do is delay this decision while we have a working rescue squad that has made its, made its response times. And I don't know if this was in our budget for this year, but I'm assuming that we budgeted for a rescue squad this year. So we at least should have more time.
Good evening, Steve Pick, 3 Wakeman Circle, Hillsborough. I believe that there's something inherently wrong with the response from Robert Wood Johnson. It's free. There's no free lunch. You had lunch today, and I bet you all paid for your lunch. We pay for our dinner, we pay for the services in our homes when we bring a contractor in, and we're ready and willing to pay a fair value for a top-notch service that we get here in town. There's no free lunch. How can you accept a free offer? There has to be an underlying, there's no good business model that offers a free service.
Good evening, Roy Fryman, Snowborn Place. First of all, thank you very much for your patience this evening on this topic. Also, thank you for posting the information. That was very helpful. You put it right up on the website. So a couple of quick questions, because the night is getting long on this. You had mentioned that you were concerned around the sustainability for HEMS. So is it an uncertainty of the sustainability, or do you have information that leads you to believe that, yes, it is, in fact, not financially viable, because that information wasn't available or posted. So that's question number one before I ask some other questions.
All right. Well, I think, and I'm going to let Committeeman Delcourt just jump in, there were a number of, I guess, deficiencies cited in the Fitch report.
Right, but those weren't financially related per se.
But that's all part of the sustainability, because I think,
Is there a financial viability concern? Yes.
That information that wasn't in the Fitch report.
Look, at the end of the day, as I think, we provide funding. The organization runs on a very narrow cash flow plan. I mean, very narrow. If there was a change or something occurred that required a quick infusion, it's simply not available.
Okay. So there wasn't an auditor's report that isn't available, that wasn't put up there? That
We cannot post the auditor's report.
Okay.
You'd have to ask him.
So I'm asking that you're not, and I respect the fact that you might have access to information that can't be shared publicly, but when you talk about financial viability, we have access to the reports that were published. You're not saying, look, you have insights to saying, look, this is much more serious than what we might have access to. So that's a direct question.
Yes.
Do you have access to information that says, no, there's financial instability that is motivating you that maybe the public doesn't know about?
My response would be, is that the sole motivation? No. Is it a piece of it? Certainly. We've had a number of people that have come up today indicate that they want to be sure that, well, what happens in 2 years if, with the Robert Wood Johnson contract? My concern is what happens in 2 years if there's an issue with our current provider.
Understood.
Where we don't have the ability to react. That has to be a consideration as well. Is it the sole one? Of course not.
Understood. Second thing is in terms of the process, you sent out an RFP, and then you had a small committee evaluate and make a recommendation to the committee here, so to speak. And that was posted, the recommendation was posted.
Correct.
But two of the people that were part of the recommendation committee are sitting here now. And I was just wondering as to why you're making a recommendation to yourself, in essence, because the two of you are actually, two of the four people.
There's a requirement in the bid process that there has to be an evaluation of the bid.
I understand that.
And there, so.
But to have the evaluation committee consist of four people,
Right.
and that committee then takes a look, evaluates the RFPs, makes a recommendation as to what the next step should be,
Right.
brings it to the deciding committee, which is you,
Right.
but yet you make two of you are already sitting here. So it's almost like half of the recommendation committee is already sitting here. So you're making, so in essence, Frank, you made a recommendation to yourself.
But with all respect, that's true of any committee that would have.
Not
to happen,
necessarily.
because-
It could have been some independent people that weren't sitting up here.
There are two independent people.
Just my point, though. It
Okay.
could have been independent people taking an evaluation, looking at it, presenting their findings to the deciding board, the deciding committee, and saying, here is our, we looked at this, we're looking at the interests of what's going on.
I mean, the recommendation it was an evaluation of the bid, not a recommendation for action. It was the evaluation of the various criteria in the bid.
Then I may have misread the letter that was posted from the
There was a
evaluation
letter
committee.
that came from our QPA and our CFO, Ms. Nancy Costa, and in her recommendation as the qualified purchasing agent, it was her recommendation that the bid that was initiated, the response to that bid was compliant, was fully viable, and as a result, it was her recommendation as part of her QPA responsibilities to recommend that.
I respect that.
Okay.
One last
So
thing.
it's- okay.
It was mentioned before, obviously HEMS, your hearing, is part of the fabric of this community. And you obviously have significant concerns because you're looking out for this community as well. What would you need to see from HEMS? Because you can't compare, HEMS is costing the community money. Robert Wood said it's not going to cost the community money. Obviously a financial difference. But yet you've heard from the community saying, you know something, we're willing to pay for that. Communities, those represented here saying, we're willing to pay for that because it's important to us, just like we're saying we're willing to pay for lots of things in the community. But you have some concerns about HEMS.
Well,
You've also heard suggestions saying, taking a step back and saying, you know, hey, can we think about it? What would satisfy your longer-term concerns?
Your presumption assumes that this was, you know, initiated at the time of the bid response. And
I'm sorry, Frank? I'm sorry.
Your presumption is that some of these issues were sort of raised at the time of the bid response. And that's simply not the case. These have been ongoing issues that have been discussed over multiple years.
And so it just reached the point in time.
It didn't reach that. But we wanted to put out a bid so that we could understand what the options were, both within the existing provider and other alternatives.
Yeah.
Because there has to be you know, standard benchmarks that we can measure against, best practices that have to be implemented.
I read the report as well, and I saw that. And that's where I was just saying, you're hearing from the community. They would want to find a balance.
I understand.
They're looking
And
for a
you know what?
balance.
That's been our goal, like I think Committeeman Delcourt was saying. This has been years. And I know someone made a comment, they felt this was rushed. Well, it's been years. The Fitch report was authorized in 2014 or 13?
Issued in September of 2014.
It was issued, but we authorized it in 13 or 14. So we've sat on it for 2.5 years, hoping. And we even, and I said it earlier, we even sat for this weekend waiting for response to some of the questions I posed. So, I mean, I know you're in finances, and
I get that.
if someone spent $700,000 and you ask them where to go, and you get a shrug of the shoulder.
I think
there's got to be more transparency, and I think this is kind of where it has slowly, not all of a sudden just erupted, but it has slowly gotten to the point where
Thank you for
the
your time.
decision needs to be made.
Thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Wyman. I'm not a Hillsborough resident. I'm actually a resident of Somerville. I'm ex-chief of Somerville Rescue Squad. And in all disclosure, I work in a volunteer capacity with Somerset County Office of Emergency Management as the Somerset County EMS Bureau Chief, as well as I'm being the Emergency Management Coordinator for Somerville. So a couple of things, just by education of everyone here. New Jersey is an absolute screwed up state when it comes to emergency medical services. That's
You could have stopped at New Jersey's state, but that's okay.
Absolutely. But that's put us in the predicament we are in and that you are in today. Mr. Willard stated it unequivocally correct, that you have to have fire, you have to have police, you don't have to have emergency medical services, which is an absolute crime in and of itself, okay? What Hillsborough Rescue Squad has done, let's put the finances aside for right now, is they have taken something that's really kind of a calamity, and from a service standpoint, they have provided unequivocally excellent service to the community and throughout the county. They are part of a county fabric that hasn't been mentioned today for mutual aid, mass casualty response, firefighter rehab, which, let me tell you, right now there are only 2 agencies largely in Somerset County that'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go out and make sure firefighters aren't dropping over dead, and Hillsborough is one of them, okay? So, that being said, we're screwed up. Hillsborough provides a service which is great. I'm around during the day, I have a business in town, I listen to the radio, I'm a bit of a nerd that way, and 1 call, 2 call, 3 call, 4 calls going out within a 15-minute period, very common to occur in this area. The surge capacity that they have, and there is a volunteer basis to it, there's a basis of they've got residents who are members of their organization that are listening up, and when they hear that 3rd call go out, they're putting their shoes on and they're already starting to head out because they're anticipating there could be that 4th call. You don't get that in the system that Robert Wood Johnson brings to the table, okay? The other thing that's important is sustainability. Sustainability has come up time and time and time again. Every YouTube video I've watched for the last couple of months, sustainability has been there. If we took sustainability, if we took money out of the picture, would we be talking anything today about Hillsborough Rescue Squad?
We wouldn't be talking about Hillsborough Rescue Squad because the doors would close.
Well, I'm saying if you took sustainability out, and where I'm going with this is that you've got a multi-million-dollar operation in the fire districts, you've got a multi-million-dollar operation in law enforcement. There are over 3,000 calls for service that Hillsborough does per year. Because of the screwed up nature of EMS in this state, they are doing the best that they can with limited and sometimes no resources. And limited in that you guys are providing a phenomenal resource to them. Nobody will argue that. But it's clearly not enough. You couldn't give $300,000 to your fire districts and expect them to run fire calls per year. You couldn't give $300,000 to your police department and expect them to staff police cars. So, what I simply ask of you, and I think this is smart, Hillsborough has been around for over 55 years. They're not going anywhere in the next year. Take some time and look at this. Look and see the sustainability thing. Because let me tell you, the amount of money you're subsidizing, and I realize there's the behind the dead issue and all that. Sit down with the leadership of this organization. Sit down with their board. Pull in whoever you need to pull in. Don't let this organization go away. Because if you do, it's going to come back and it's going to bite you down the road, in my opinion. And more importantly, you don't want that to happen. I think all of you are great people. All of you are volunteering your time to be here tonight. And at the end of the day, it's all about sustainability. One other thing I do want to talk about, cost. I know it's not going to cost the township any money to bring a third-party agency in. And that's another thing that's kind of gone about here tonight. Hillsborough is a company, absolutely. But every rescue squad that operates in Somerset County, with the exception of some of the fire-based squads, are private companies too. That's the model we had to put ourselves into in order to get funding, get fundraising, sustain ourselves. We have to be a private, non-for-profit entity. Otherwise, we'd have to be under the municipality, which isn't going to happen, or we wouldn't be in existence. So one of the things that I think is so true is it's not going to cost you, the township, any money. But when a third-party entity comes in, and maybe right now a Hillsborough's charging a load and go fee of $900. of which the insurance company comes in and maybe they cover 80% of that because there's always a copay, or maybe Medicare, Medicaid comes in and pays a portion of that. The remainder of that balance relies on the patient, okay? You have a model called soft billing, which basically says, you know what, we realize that maybe a $900 bill may come your way and you may only be, your insurance company may not cover any of it because maybe you had a staple in your finger or you called 911, and now because you called 911, that ambulance is obligated to go out, and if you want to go to the hospital, they're obligated to take you to the hospital. They can't tell you, no, we're not going to take you to the hospital and walk away. So in a model that particularly like Hillsborough works under is, if you can't pay for your bill, they're not coming after you to pay for your bill. If you can't afford your bill, they're not going to keep you on the hook for your bill. Big box, as we call them, when they come in, they'll do that. And their rates are much higher. It's not uncommon to have $1,500, $2,000 load and go rates. And even if your insurance company is covering that, the 20% copay that you're still responsible for as the user is now exponentially increased. So there is a cost differential that does get passed on to the consumer when that's being used that isn't being looked at now. So I just, put that out there for everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jim Bergstrom, 78 Wurtsville Road in Hillsborough. Just a couple quick points. One, you talk about sustainability. These people have sustained this for decades and decades and decades. They've got a real strong history of that. When you've raised questions about sustainability, you've brought up this money stuff. It's all a little bit fuzzy. There's nothing positive on it. There's this that might be for this and that. You're making a sustainability story that I don't even know that it's there. I haven't heard anything that makes me think that there is a problem. They have a real history of sustainability. It's not questioned. And the other point that bothers me about Robert Wood Johnson is they're quite a large corporation that just seems to be growing and eating up everything around here. Do we want to put ourselves in the hands and where they're going to be the only ones that provide anything around here? That's it. I love what our people do here.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Rena Liu. I live in the Hillsborough, about 15 years old. So right now, I just drove my car past the ShopRite. Somebody just gave me the piece of paper. When I saw it, I said, I have the hope of moving in the Hillsborough. Right now, I got the nightmare. I want to move out of the Hillsborough because emergency medical EMS will sell to the Robert Wood Johnson. I just told you, I have a lovely daughter right now. When she was in the high school, Hillsborough EMS volunteer group, full list, very busy, cannot get into it. So he just got to the Montgomery. Volunteer about 3 years. Right now, he wants to go to the medical school. I appreciate that stuff. So I want to pay the tax, increase the tax. I want to pay it, but I want to keep the service about the Hillsborough community, because you need to care the children and be a parent and all the community people. Okay, I got the emergency. Okay, I take care of the 4 days baby. Got an emergency because the baby just the milk choke. But I know how to do the CPR. I work with healthy care provider about 15 years. I know so important for the EMS. I just want to know, please, keep the community service, do the service for all of the people live in the Hillsborough. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Reinbeck. I'm a resident in Somerset, the next town over, Franklin Township. I'm just curious, the committee and the mayor and the deputy mayor, you've indicated that you're volunteers this evening. Do you collect a stipend or any kind of a payment for your service to this town?
Yeah. What's the relevancy?
So the answer is yes.
Right.
So that means you are not volunteers. You are being compensated by your constituents, the residents of Hillsborough Township, to be here. You are not volunteers. Please stop conveying that. The second thing...
Never
When do we
conveyed
indicate we were
that.
volunteers?
Well, it was implied.
I think it's something
Never.
from the audience said
I think someone from the audience, not us.
And just for the record, the mayor makes $4,000 a year, and the rest of us make $3,500.
Okay. I certainly
So
did
we
not
put
ask
that out
that,
there,
but
just so,
but thank
that's
you for
the
your
stipend.
transparency. The other question that I have, which really hasn't been answered, that I can understand, is Bob McDonald asked a question whether the attorney was involved in the process of EMS services in Greenbrook. It's been determined that you were the counsel at the time. Is that correct?
What are we talking about? First of all, I don't know the question that you're referring to. Apparently you have this information. I'd like to see it because I don't know what you're talking about. But yes, but was it? Okay, I'll watch the video. Show me the
Excuse me,
video.
if you have a comment, please come to the microphone.
What was the point of the question?
No, we're talking
I wasn't
about the
talking
chairman of
to
the
this gentleman.
The point of the question, was I the attorney in Greenbrook when? I am currently, I don't know exactly the year I started, but I was there when they went through the process of their EMS squad became dysfunctional and North Plainfield came in and they're their current provider. I was there during that period, absolutely, 100%.
Okay. Was that asked at another meeting by Bob McDonald?
Not that I know of.
Not specifically in North Plainfield. He asked, I believe the question was, did he have prior experience?
How do you remember this?
Because I have a very good memory.
Okay.
Trust me. But no, it was asked, it wasn't specific to North Plainfield, but it was specific to, did he have experience in this type of service, technically?
And do you remember the response to that? Because it would be characterized and recorded in the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the response to that question?
I believe he said,
We went
it's
through
not.
this about
If
2 hours ago.
perhaps
Could you
the-
just
if-
please give some
I'm
relevant
certainly trying
input?
to
If the
wrap it up.
question was misunderstood, I think we've clarified it today. Yes, at that time, Greenbrook, I think he indicated where the service was.
a different process,
I'm
I
not
think,
sure,
at the time.
By
I'm
the
not sure
way-
where you're going with it, but.
And I
What was
apologize.
the
But by the way, just for my own
answer to Mr.
edification,
McDonald's question at the time?
can I ask you something, just for my own education, because I want to look back at this? What meeting was that?
Excuse me?
What meeting was it?
The meeting that they were referring to. I don't have the minutes, but I'm certainly going to research.
I think it was the last one.
So,
Okay.
okay,
McDonald got up and asked a whole bunch of questions.
okay.
I did.
And I
So what is your
specifically, at that
question?
point in time,
Bill,
Mr.
you can't
McDonald.
address
Bill,
people in the
don't
audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. And, all right, I apologize. So,
Are
Mr.,
you counsel for any other towns that may have gone?
Come on.
Excuse me, if you
We're not
have to
doing this
statement,
from the
please
audience.
come to the
Come on now.
microphone.
That's
Ask her
it.
later.
okay.
Thank you.
So then the answer to that question is no. This is my first time through an RFP process like this. Greenbrook never went through that formal process.
Yes, it is.
You've just said multiple times that you were involved through the whole dysfunction of the Greenbrook Rescue Squad all the way through, and at the time you were the counsel.
I don't believe Greenbrook ever went out for an RFP process like this. They did not. They did not issue RFPs for the service.
But
What
that-
ended up happening was they had conversations with Robert Wood, and they indicated it's going to cost a couple $100,000, and then they went and found another alternative, and that other alternative was North Plainfield. There was no RFP that I was involved with, that I ever wrote, and that I ever published. That didn't happen.
But the question more or less was, do you have any experience
Okay.
with the EMS system, not an RFP?
Okay, we've established.
I'll go back and look at the tape. I
We've
don't know how you
established-
answered your question.
Clarified.
I
Is
don't know how it's
there-
relevant, but.
Is there another question you have?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
you.
for your time.
thank you. We're moving along, so. Okay, no additional people at the microphone, so I will ask now for a roll call.
We got to close public.
No, there's no public. This is not an ordinance.
Those comments from the floor, okay, so it's roll call.
What is that?
Comments from the floor are complete, roll call.
Yeah, comments are complete, roll call, please.
Committeeman Delcor?
So the issue we have before us today, and I understand a lot of the questions, a lot of the concerns that have been raised. As I started my comments earlier, I recognize there's certainly an emotional factor with this. There's an attachment to the organization that has been in town for some time, and I'm sure they have saved countless people some of which are in the room, some of which you have family members. But we have gone through an exhaustive process over the last, I'll say, 3 years. Before that, in discussions to try to work on how we move forward with the current organization. We put an RFP together because we wanted to ensure that we were getting the best service possible, with industry standards, benchmarks that we can count upon, and yes, savings. That's not to say that we're sacrificing lives for savings. We all live in town, and the implication that somehow we would sacrifice the health of our families and friends and those of you out there for a couple of bucks is simply not the case. So I look at what has been put before us. There's a process we go through. A lot of it is statutory that says we've put an RFP in place. It was a fairly comprehensive one. I think we were actually criticized at the last meeting for being almost too comprehensive. And we had one viable response, one response period, and that one is viable. And it met all the criteria, and it's a provider that provides service to other surrounding municipalities. It provides quality service. It's providing some of the ancillary services that we want here in town. It's committed to 90th percentile of response rates, which we could not get that response from our existing organization. I have no issue or no reason to say that the RFP response that we've received from one of our local hospitals, and the implication that somehow the hospitals don't care about people, I hope I never become that cynical. So with that, with the response that we've received and the compliance of the RFP, I vote yes.
Committeeman Thompson.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick comments from me. Obviously, as was pointed out by my friend Lloyd, I am a lifelong resident of this town, and I'm certainly very concerned that we even had to get to this point. I'll continue talking to the microphone. I'm certainly concerned that we even got to this point. I sat directly across from Chief Gwynn and members of the Hems Corp Board of Directors just last week, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, it wasn't last Thursday, Thursday before that, trying to get additional information about that sustainability that we continue to talk about. And I won't go into the specifics of the audit report, because I don't know that legally I can. If that's something that we're allowed to do in the future, I'd be happy to. But when there's a situation where, and this was in the Fitch report, where the CEO is loaning money directly to the organization to pay for bills, that's concerning to me. I have to be concerned about whether or not the viability of the rescue squad to continue in any manner is out there. Again, the CEO is loaning just to pay bills. That's a concern. When I asked, what did that go for, I couldn't get an answer. The audit report from 2015 is now a year and 2 months behind, and we haven't seen it. Again, that's another concern. I don't take this lightly, as I have a lot of friends, or I used to have friends, that are part of the rescue squad, and everyone on there does amazing work. There's not a single one of them that doesn't. And the volunteers, too, have done amazing jobs. But when I look at and sit across from someone and ask direct questions, and I can't get answers for years now, for years, I have to vote based on what's in front of me. And when I look at the bid that was received, and I wish Hems Corp would have put in a bid, even if they could have met every single specification, we would have been the evaluators of that. We would have looked at that. But there's one bid in front of us today, and that bid is from Robert Wood Johnson. And looking at the evaluation, based on what we asked, they hit all those targets in there. So regardless of my personal feelings of Hems Corp., which I do believe does an amazing job day in and day out, there's one bid in front of me, and that bid is from Robert Wood Johnson, and I have to vote yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley.
Yes.
Mayor Srirachi.
Okay. Kind of summarize some of what went on so that there's no misunderstandings. I think we've brought this up. It hasn't been a rush process. Been involved in this for years. Anyone knows, look on the wall. Had a lot more hair since the start of this, and this is something that I've been working on for a lot of years, with the rescue squad. And I concur with my fellow township committee people. And I think perhaps what has happened is we've talked about Hems Corps as though it's the entire body, the people, but I think Committeeman Thompson perhaps narrowed it down to what it was. It was the management. There are no issues, with the staff and the service they provide. I know there was talk about Robert Wood Johnson perhaps and the cynicism. They're professionals too, and I think that was rude. I'm sorry, but I have to say it. Robert Wood Johnson medical staff, they're not going to be, dragging their feet to calls and stuff. They're going to be out there to do what they want to do. The other thing that we have here too is, again, we want to bring back volunteer. We are not looking to blow up or, see Hillsborough Rescue Squad go away. We want to see it back. And Robert Wood Johnson, in that proposal, has made that commitment to bring back a volunteer squad. And I think that's going to go a long way. And I think it was alluded to a couple of times too, is with regards, the word hasn't been said, but it's transparency. There were questions asked. We didn't get them. I actually told, hold this off the agenda. Give it one more weekend. Never came. It's a tough position that we're in here. And, we have a fiduciary duty. I mean, we have friends, family, ourselves here. We want to see, medical services here. The good part of this is a 5-year deal. And actually, it's got, it's got review points in that deal after 2 years. We then on years 3, 4, and 5, we get to decide if it continues. So it's not locked in. So there's an incentive there, and I know Robert Wood Johnson is professionals, and they're going to look to provide professional services. Perhaps during that time, we see a revitalization of the Hillsborough Rescue Squad as a volunteer organization. And maybe when the next time an RFP, after the conclusion of that period, there'll be competitive bids in there. I mean, we did have 8 organizations pick up. It would have been nice to have a choice, and I think it would have been a very lively debate if there was choice. So, with that conclusion, I'm going to be voting yes.
You guys are public officials.
Excuse me, you can come to the microphone, please. Thank you.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, public comment is over.
I just want to tell you guys, you're all public officials. You're supposed to be helping out the public. That's us. You're not doing it. You're in it for yourselves.
Vote him out.
Yeah.
So, okay. Moving on, consent agenda.
I just have one question, you guys. My name is Terry Beck. I live on Bloomingdale.
There's no...
Oh, I just wanted to ask them if there's the contract. Sorry. All right.
You can ask us after if you want.
Okay. Moving again onto the consent agenda, may I have a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda?
So moved, Mayor. Second.
Comments from the dais? From the floor regarding the consent agenda? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman Delaporte?
Yes.
Chairman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley?
Yes?
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve Claims List 2017-06?
So moved.
Second.
Comments from the dais? From the floor regarding the claims list? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman Delaporte?
Yes.
Chairman Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McCauley?
Yes?
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes. This concludes the regular meeting. I do not see an executive session, so I'm requesting a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.